needs to be repaid immediately, even if it means parting ways with a kidney. Flashing a totally psychotic grin, he claims they need a taste of pure agony to truly grasp the pain he feels when his money goes missing. Meanwhile, the mom is frantically tapping away on her phone right behind him. The boss catches her in the act, violently snatches the device away, and demands to know if she is dialing 911. He had already warned them about playing hero, but glancing at the screen, he realizes she isn't calling the cops, she is actually texting her kid, pleading with him to stay far away. A sick, twisted smirk creeps across the thug's face as he mocks her for keeping secrets. He jokes about having a little heart-to-heart with the boy, sending the parents into a total panic as they sob and beg him to leave their son alone. Ignoring their cries, the boss orders his goons to tie them up and gag them, sadistically whispering that they wouldn't want to spook the poor kid. Right on cue, a heavy knock echoes through the room. It is him. The son just showed up at the absolute worst possible time. Even before turning the knob, his gut tells him things are deeply messed up. The second the door cracks open, his mom, sobbing silently, mouths for him to run away. But he steps right into the trap, completely unaware that the thugs are lurking in the shadows. Casually slipping off his sneakers, he announces that he is home, but he barely makes it 3 steps inside, when a goon lunges from the blind spot and completely obliterates the side of his head with a metal baseball bat. His mom loses her mind, screaming in pure horror. But here is the insane part. Taking a full swing bat to the skull barely registers. The kid simply grabs the attacker's shoulder and counters with a brutal right hook, instantly folding the thug and dropping him cold on the floor. The parents and the loan shark are absolutely speechless. Staring down at his henchman's caved-in face, the boss is freaking out, trying to process what kind of monster he is dealing with. He demands to know who this kid really is, but the boy doesn't say a single word. He just locks eyes with the crew, radiating pure, lethal rage. Panicking, the gang leader screams at his men to finish the brat. 2 thugs charge in, swinging blindly. The kid effortlessly slips past the first bat and buries his fist straight into the second guy's gut. You can literally hear the ribs snap. But he is not done. He follows up with a devastating second blow, shattering the bones entirely. While that guy is shrieking in agony, a third attacker launches a flying kick from above. The boy just snatches the airborne leg, sweeps the guy's standing foot, and violently snaps his ankle. Out of nowhere, another mobster sneaks up from behind and completely shatters a solid wooden chair across the kid's skull. Zero flinch. The boy just slowly turns his head, giving the blonde attacker a death glare that sends absolute chills down his spine. In the blink of an eye, the blonde dude gets launched through the air and slams against the drywall, leaving the boss totally mind-blown and terrified. Spiraling into sheer panic, the head honcho whips out a switchblade, presses it against the dad's throat, and threatens to end the old man's life just to see the kid break. He flashes that arrogant smirk one last time, before catching a hot clothes iron straight to the jaw. The boy brutally launches the heavy appliance into the leader's face, sending him flying backward through a solid wooden door. The parents are sitting there absolutely paralyzed in shock. Pinned inside the splintered wood, the boss starts screaming bloody murder about his broken neck, begging anyone to call an ambulance. Standing in the middle of the absolute carnage he just created, the boy is completely drained. He kneels down, frees his parents from their bindings, and casually mutters that if they hate seeing him throw hands, they shouldn't have been broke in the first place. Dropping that cold one-liner, his eyes instantly roll back, and he faceplants onto the living room floor, out cold. His mom hysterically screams his name. Cut to a massive hospital facility, where every single one of those thugs is groaning in the emergency ward. Over at the front desk, this slick-looking guy on his phone is trying to figure out what caused this massive pileup. A nurse leans in and drops the insane news, revealing that one single teenager just soloed a 10-man hit squad to protect his family. Finding out he is literally just a high schooler leaves the bespectacled guy totally stunned. Meanwhile, strapped to a hospital bed, the severely bruised gang boss is barking orders to hunt the kid down and finish him off. His lackey tells him to chill out, revealing that the teen actually got admitted to this exact same hospital. They already dispatched a monster named Big Bear to his room, meaning the kid is officially marked for death. Eavesdropping on their little murder plot, the guy with glasses gets super curious about this Big Bear dude. He casually asks the receptionist for the kid's location. She checks the system and says he is currently resting in room 202. The slick guy immediately sprints down the white hallways, realizing that the infamous local heavyweight is on his scouting list for an elite fighting tournament. If things play out right, he might just witness an absolute powerhouse in action. Reaching the doorway, he genuinely pities the poor teenager, who unfortunately got dragged into this brutal underground mess. Peeking through the glass, he spots the massive brute towering ominously over the sleeping boy. The giant scoffs, totally insulted that they dragged him out here just to flatten a scrawny teenager. He mocks the kid's size but admits a paycheck is a paycheck, noting that the brat definitely has some grit. Waking up to a mountain of muscle, the boy doesn't show an ounce of fear. Without blinking, he violently rips the IV drip straight out of his vein, totally locked in for round 2. But first, smash that like button and share this masterpiece around to help the channel blow up. Drop a sub to join the VIP squad for weekly exclusive drops. Alright, enough yapping. Let's dive straight back into the heat. This absolute unit flexes, promising to show our boy what pure terror tastes like. But before he can even blink, the kid closes the gap and plants a clean right hook dead on his jaw. Spectating from the sidelines, the dude in the glasses instantly clocks the kid's insane reaction speed. But Big Bear just tanks it. He counters with a massive skull-cracking slap, folding the kid like a lawn chair. Coughing up crimson, our MC looks utterly wrecked, making the spectator assume it's game over. Towering over him, the mountain of muscle scoffs. He ruthlessly mocks the kid, claiming that all the guts in the world won't save a frail twig from getting utterly demolished. Plot twist. The boy wipes his mouth and rises right back up to his feet. Staring dead into the giant's soul, he drops an absolute nuke of an insult, claiming that if the guy's fists matched his massive ego, he actually might be intimidating. Hearing his raw power called straight garbage flips a lethal switch inside Big Bear. The brute charges forward like a freight train, roaring at the kid to keep running his mouth right up until he snaps his neck. Outside the window, panic sets in. The spectator realizes this isn't a simple beatdown anymore, it's an execution. He braces himself to breach the room and prevent a murder. But our MC is built different. Slipping past a lethal haymaker by mere millimeters, he launches a devastating roundhouse kick directly into the giant's temple. The impact echoes through the room, sending the titan crashing toward the concrete. The dude in glasses is utterly stunned, sweating bullets since nobody in history has ever dropped this absolute monster. Wait, scratch that. At the very last microsecond, the behemoth slams his palm into the floor, catching his massive frame before he eats dirt. You don't earn the title of the nation's most impenetrable physical freak by getting one-tapped by a teenager. Grinning like a total psychopath, Big Bear asks if the high schooler actually hallucinated that a single petty strike could end this. Zero hesitation, zero chill. Before the villain can even finish his villain monologue, the boy feeds him another brutal knuckle sandwich. Meanwhile, the dude watching from the hallway is absolutely mind-blown. Through the cracked door, he witnesses pure chaos. This scrawny teenager is absolutely dog-walking the legendary Big Bear. Suddenly, the massive brute erupts into a dark, booming laugh. He snatches the teenager up, scoffing that he actually has to bust out his ultimate finishing move on some random high school punk. The spectator hiding outside instantly breaks into a cold sweat. He recognizes that stance. It is Big Bear's infamous signature technique, the bone crusher. Panic sets in as he realizes he has to step in before the kid gets snapped in half. Inside, the hulking monster cackles madly, roaring that the boy brought this execution upon himself. Kicking the door wide open, the glasses-wearing spectator screams at the giant to drop the kid. But the warning falls on deaf ears. The giant violently executes his lethal submission hold, leaving the man in the doorway completely paralyzed with horror. Then, the unthinkable happens. A sickening silence drops over the room as the massive brawler realizes something is terribly off. He is flexing with every single ounce of raw power he possesses. Yet, the teenager simply reaches up and lightly taps the giant on the shoulder, completely unfazed. Big Bear's jaw drops, stammering in disbelief at how his prey is even conscious. He cannot comprehend why the teenager's ribcage has not turned to dust. Before he can even process the glitch in reality, the high schooler violently spikes the towering beast into the concrete, totally shattering the floorboards. Thrashing around in a desperate panic, the defeated titan begs to know why his crushing grip did zero damage. In response, the kid delivers a savage, skull-rattling headbutt, leaving the giant wondering if he just collided with a solid steel anvil. Bam! A second vicious strike lands perfectly, instantly caving in the bully's facial structure. Right as the teenager winds up for a devastating third blow, the dude with the glasses frantically shouts for him to cut it out. He points out that the meathead is already out cold and begs the teenager to chill. He warns that if this bloodbath goes any further, scrubbing the crime scene is going to be an absolute nightmare. Pulling out his burner phone, he calmly reports a critical patient up in room 202. He smoothly covers it up as a nasty hit-and-run head trauma, requesting an immediate dispatch. Meanwhile, our protagonist glares at the mysterious stranger, demanding to know his identity and why he is randomly playing savior. Adjusting his frames, the guy smirks and clarifies that they aren't exactly allies yet, but he would absolutely love to team up. The teenager just scowls, asking what kind of delusional garbage he is spewing. Right on cue, a sketchy crew in suits bursts through the doorway, stopping dead in their tracks at the absolute carnage. Their leader quickly snaps out of it, confirming the target is secured. They assure the boss they will handle the trash. The suited manager casually asks the medical team to keep the giant heavily sedated. and the squad instantly gets to work prepping the tranquilizers. Watching this shady underground operation unfold, our main character is totally sketched out. He stomps right up to the mastermind for answers, prompting the man to smoothly slide a sleek business card out of his pocket. Pitching his offer, the stranger promises that if the teenager agrees to serve his boss, he will unlock a lifestyle where money is basically limitless. The high schooler snatches the premium card, silently reading the embossed lettering. The recruiter flashes a slick smile, explaining that all the kid has to do is become their underground champion. Without missing a beat, the protagonist flicks the fancy paper straight into the trash. He harshly tells the suited guy to get lost, making it crystal clear he is not about to become someone's paid attack dog. He calls the whole sketchy setup a massive joke. Unbothered, the recruiter just smirks, knowing the kid will inevitably crawl back when reality hits. Later, leaning over the grimy bathroom sink, our teenage powerhouse glares at his reflection, completely frustrated by how pathetic and cursed his entire existence feels. But he is still desperately clinging to that one sacred promise he made his mom to never become the bad guy. Out of nowhere, his dad straight up corners him in the hospital bathroom, demanding to know where he thinks he is sneaking off to, looking so completely wrecked. Our guy just shoots him absolute daggers, spitting venom as he asks whose fault this actually is. Like, weren't you supposed to be this untouchable boxing champ? You constantly bragged about having pro leagues begging to sign you, so why exactly are we suffocating in endless debt? Why have you just been sitting around doing absolutely nothing? Would it really shatter your massive ego to just open up a basic neighborhood gym? I have no clue what actually got you booted from the national roster, but does your precious pride seriously matter more than your own struggling wife? His dad does not even flinch, just turns his back, and coldly orders him to stay glued to his hospital bed, leaving our boy boiling with pure, unfiltered hatred for the man. But then, total plot twist, he randomly feels freezing water dripping down his skin, and his skull starts brutally pounding. Our guy is completely exhausted, wondering if the sleep deprivation is messing with his head, blaming it all on the dad he absolutely despises. It literally makes him sick watching the old man take a beating just to scrape by, or worse, begging on his knees to the parents of those dirtbag bullies. We're talking about the exact same punks who constantly target our MC. He refuses to rely on his dad for anything, totally unwilling to give the guy the satisfaction of playing the good father role. But let's be real, his reality is a total nightmare. Still just a teenager, he forces himself to grind on a sketchy fishing boat, hoping to scrape together enough cash to escape this miserable life, let alone pay for basic survival. But the universe just loves kicking him while he's down. Those scumbag bullies basically dig his grave even deeper, completely wrecking his only source of income. Yet, despite the massive grudge he holds against his dad, bailing isn't an option because of his mom. He's literally drowning in this bottomless pit of absolute misery. But suddenly, snapping out of these dark memories, he jolts awake in a sterile hospital bed, questioning if he seriously blacked out again. Looking around though, the vibe is entirely off. Did they move him to another wing? He's trying to figure out how long he's been unconscious when his phone buzzes. It's a heavy text from his dad saying it's finally time to lay all the cards on the table. They're set to meet up tonight. Our boy's mind is racing, hyper-analyzing what secrets the old man is hiding and praying it isn't something tragic about his mom. Panicking, he instantly dials her number to check in. She answers, her voice shaking, warning him to stay far away from their house because those ruthless gangsters are currently stalking the place. Completely blindsided, he demands to know what the hell is going on. His mom firmly orders him to stay put, revealing she intentionally transferred him to a hidden ward. He's registered under an alias now, totally off the grid. Frantic, he asks about her own safety, and she quietly confesses she's laying low at the Selfless Motel, right next to the local police precinct. She begs him not to stress over her, cutting the conversation short because she urgently needs to prepare for what's coming next. Her final plea is for him to lock down in that hospital and stay out of danger. The call drops, leaving our MC staring at the screen, completely pissed off at this insane situation. The guilt hits hard. If he hadn't thrown punches, none of this chaos would have spiraled. He makes a split-second decision to go track her down, but the moment he steps toward the door, his phone rings again. It's his dad's caller ID. He picks up, but instead of the old man, a deadpan stranger's voice asks if he's the son of Mr. Kang. Our boy aggressively asks who the heck is speaking. The stranger drops a total bombshell. It's a critical emergency. His father plummeted from a high-rise and is totally unresponsive. The news shatters him. We get a brutal cinematic flash, his father's mangled body completely wrecked on the concrete. Cutting back to the sterile hospital reality, he's now standing over his dad's comatose form. The diagnosis is absolutely grim. The surgeon makes it painfully clear that this procedure is a medical nightmare, carrying a massive price tag of 100 million won. On top of that, we're talking years of grueling, expensive physical therapy just to get him functional, And the hospital bills are going to be astronomical. Completely paralyzed by the weight of it all, the kid breaks down, silent tears streaming as his mind spirals, questioning how his life turned into such a massive train wreck. Sobbing uncontrollably in pure desperation, he frantically brainstorms any possible way to secure that kind of ridiculous cash. Suddenly, a light bulb goes off. That sketchy business card he tossed in the garbage earlier, without missing a beat, he sprints back down the hallway, making a beeline for his old room, 202. He throws the door open and checks the wastebasket, only to find it completely empty. Absolute panic sets in. He starts violently trembling, blaming himself for this entire disaster, crying out for forgiveness because he feels like a completely useless burden who doesn't even deserve to breathe. But right in the middle of his breakdown, a smooth voice from behind interrupts. The mysterious dude from earlier holds up the card, smirking as he asks if our boy finally changed his tune. Eyes wide with desperation, the kid instantly asks what the payout is, if he signs up. The guy casually drops an insane number. He could rake in up to 100 billion won. Plus, if he becomes a fan favorite, he won't even need to rely on the tournament's prize pool to walk away filthy rich. He throws the ball in the kid's court. Our MC just stands there, jaw practically on the floor, literally speechless. Cut to the next scene. They're sitting across from each other in a dimly lit office. The recruiter slides a contract across the desk, telling him to read the fine print before signing his life away. Our boy squints at the paper. What exactly is the combat ward? He asks. The suit leans in, explaining it's a highly classified underground fight club where competitors are pumped full of experimental serums, supplied directly by the hospital, granting them literal superhuman strength. The kid physically recoils, asking what kind of messed up narcotics they're talking about. He aggressively states he doesn't mess with heavy substances. Unfazed, the man pops open his sleek briefcase, revealing a glowing stash of vials, explaining that this isn't your average street junk. Depending on the formula, a single dose could transform a dying grandfather into a prime Mike Tyson. But he quickly adds a disclaimer: juicing up isn't strictly enforced. Totally creeped out, the kid finally asks who this dude actually is. The guy introduces himself as Min-Sok Kim. He reveals he's a headhunter backing a major VIP investor who heavily runs the combat ward scene. The kid is so lost. A talent scout? For a blood sport? He questions. Min-Sok just nods, steering the conversation back to the actual issue. Is he going to take the juice or fight natural? He drops a heavy reality check historically. Not a single fighter has ever survived and won this thing clean. Our stubborn MC completely rejects the drug idea, but Min-Sok just smirks, betting the kid will change his mind once he actually steps into the slaughterhouse. Internally, the kid is groaning, realizing this corporate psycho is entirely deaf to his concerns. Min-Sok smoothly transitions, breaking down their business arrangement. He explains the rookie bracket. Once you step into the ring, surviving long enough to hit the top 20 means you get to pick a financial backer. And the catch? The kid absolutely must select Min-Sok's VIP as his sponsor. From that moment on, they're officially a team, grinding together until they secure the grand championship. The kid absorbs this and nods. Cool, I get it. But I need a massive cash advance right now. Min-Sok instantly shoots him down, claiming upfront payouts are completely off the table and he only gets paid through his arena victories, leaving our MC absolutely raging. Are you actually playing me right now? Our boy snaps. Give me one good reason to team up with you. But Min-Sok doesn't even flinch, just casually tells him to chill out. Min-Sok drops the ultimate bait. He knows the kid is desperate for cash to fund his dad's surgery and needs a safe house. The teenager freezes, demanding to know how this guy has his whole life figured out. The suit lays out a sweet deal. Free housing, full coverage for his old man's medical bills, and top-tier treatment. The catch? He just has to step into the ring and bleed for Min-Sok's boss. Plus, they'll act as a human shield against those bloodthirsty loan sharks. Our guy is super skeptical, questioning if this dude is actually legit, but right on cue, his burner phone starts buzzing. Caller ID says, "Mom." He picks up, instantly on edge, asking what hit the fan. Her voice is shaking as she drops a massive bombshell. A group of random suits just casually cleared his dad's massive hospital debt. Totally freaking out, she demands answers, mentioning a whole squad of intimidating bodyguards posted up at the ward, claiming they're strictly on his payroll. Completely speechless, our boy just glares at Min-Sok, who flashes a smug grin, whispering that the safe house is already locked down. Boom, zero things left to stress about. Min-Sok leans in, making it crystal clear. They are both backed into a corner with absolutely zero backup plans. Swallowing his pride, our protagonist lies through his teeth, telling his mom he totally hired that security detail. He promises he's heading over, and begs her to just play along with whatever they say. She's still utterly confused, demanding details, but he quickly cuts the line, promising an update later. Phone away, he locks eyes with the devil in the suit. What kind of crazy underground fighting ring hands out 10 billion won? He asks. Minsok just chuckles, correcting him. That 10 billion? That is literally just the signing bonus. If the high rollers throw heavy bets on him, the sky is the limit. He casually mentions past champions who walked away with a mind-blowing 15 billion won in cold hard cash. The teenager scoffs, calling total cap on those numbers. But Minsok's smile fades into something chilling. He insists the money is very real, but honestly, it might not even cover the cost, given the absolute nightmare these fighters have to endure. This leaves our protagonist spinning in confusion, totally failing to grasp the dark reality Minsok is painting. The suit drops the mask. Basically, every single fighter either leaves the arena in a wheelchair or in a body bag. During the last bloody tournament, the survival rate, for guys walking out with all their limbs intact, was a pathetic 10%. The kid's brain short-circuits, trying to process how something this insane exists. If bodies are dropping left and right, how isn't this all over the mainstream news? Minsok leans back, looking way too relaxed, pointing out that dead men literally cannot snitch. A cold sweat breaks out on the kid's neck. Minsok smoothly adds that the second ink hits that contract, their VIP cleanup crew gets to work forging a bulletproof alibi. An alibi for what? Our guy stammers. The suit calmly breaks down the mastermind plan. Running an underground deathmatch out of a literal hospital is a massive cheat code, making faking autopsies an absolute breeze. They'll stage security footage of him buying something random with plastic, dropping breadcrumbs to establish a fake location. From there, the cover-up options are endless. A tragic missing person case, a fatal plunge, a sudden lethal illness, or even a staged overdose. Refusing to back down, the teenager threatens to drag the cops into this twisted mess. Minsok practically laughs in his face. It takes zero effort to frame a broke kid from the streets as a hallucinating junkie. Who is going to take the word of a desperate high schooler packing 0 receipts? He mocks. Plus, blowing the whistle would be physically impossible, considering they'd officially pronounce him dead, long before he ever dialed 911. That is the terrifying perk of having a major medical facility running the show. Minsok pushes the paper forward, leaving the ball in his court, asking if he's ready to sign his life away. He fully expects the kid to hesitate, maybe beg for time. Instead, our boy grabs the pen, demanding they honor their end of the bargain. A wicked smirk creeps across Minsok's face as the ink dries on the death warrant. But before the kid can even process his massive life choice, a rogue nurse sneaks up from his blind spot, jamming a massive needle straight into his jugular. Panicking, he screams, demanding to know what they just pumped into his veins. Pure terror sets in, as the room violently spins, his eyelids growing crazy heavy. As the darkness closes in, Minsok's voice echoes, telling him to relax. It's just a little night-night juice for the ride to the slaughterhouse. His fading memory registers one final promise. His family is safe, while he fights for survival. Minsok genuinely wishes him luck, hoping the kid actually survives to see that paycheck. Hours later, consciousness slowly trickles back, leaving our boy questioning if he's trapped in the afterlife. His eyes snap open to a terrifying reality. He's being dragged by a squad of totally unrecognizable goons through some sketchy underground facility. A wave of pure panic hits him as he takes in the creepy, dystopian corridor. He frantically asks for a location, but a massive guard barks at him to shut his mouth, promising he's about to see it firsthand. The guard glares down with dead eyes, officially welcoming our boy to hell. Suddenly, the camera cuts to the glitzy headquarters of the HS Corporation. We meet director Yoon Cha, the notoriously cocky second heir of the Ryu Sung Empire. He acknowledges the kid somehow wrecked Big Bear, but demands to know why they're backing a literal child as their ace in the hole. Minsok nods, fully aware that the director's rival older brother, the vice chairman, is going to roast them alive for this draft pick. Frustrated, the young heir demands a solid explanation for this insane gamble. Holding his ground, Minsok stares right back, revealing that the older brother has an absolute superiority complex when it comes to the combat division. To bait that arrogant jerk into taking a massive, high-stakes bet, they absolutely have to play possum. Looking like an easy target is literally their master plan. The heir raises an eyebrow, highly doubting some random street rat is the ultimate trump card to dethrone his brother. But Minsok drops a lore bomb. After doing a full medical scan, following the kid's miraculous survival against Big Bear's lethal bonebreaker technique, the test results were straight-up superhuman. Intrigued, the director demands the hidden specs. Smash cut back to our boy Sunu, who jolts awake only to find a filthy sneaker planted inches from his nose. Groggy and pissed, he growls, asking who the heck is stepping to him. Before things get physical, a bunch of random NPCs dressed in creepy white jumpsuits yell at the aggressor to back down. The guy throws his hands up, claiming it was just a prank, and telling Sunu to chill out, completely unaware that a high-tech surveillance drone is hovering above, broadcasting a robotic voice confirming that Player 1 is officially awake. Squinting through the harsh lights, Sunu stares at the flying camera, demanding to know what kind of dystopian nightmare he just woke up in. Right on cue, the robotic voice responds that the system boots up. Time for the first brutal round of randomized death matches. The rules are simple. This is a bloodbath qualifier. Out of 200 desperate fighters, only the absolute apex predators survive to see the main stage. A sleek metal lockbox catches Sunwoo's eye. Inside, a glowing syringe, the booster. A hovering drone crackles to life, announcing that every participant gets a randomized serum, a literal cheat code to mutate one specific physical trait. The sick, twisted elites are already placing their bets. The PA system chimes, ordering the tributes to shoot up their enhancements immediately. Sunwoo's mind races. He's already trashed his promise to keep his head down and just graduate like a normal high schooler. But there's one vow he refuses to break, his mom's strict rule against touching garbage like this. Suddenly, an ungodly shriek shatters the silence. He whips his head around. His opponent just slammed the glowing needle straight into his veins. His veins bulge black. The dude bursts into a manic, psychotic giggle, flexing out of his mind and screaming that he pulled a pure strength buff. Sunwoo freezes. "Are you out of your mind?" our boy yells. But before the words even land, the roided-out freak launches a lethal roundhouse kick, aimed right at Sunwoo's skull. Swoosh! Sunwoo ducks just in time. He drops into a stance, sweating cold. What the actual hell? Is this guy a literal mutant now? Seconds ago, this dude was built like a twig. Now, he's absolutely jacked. Sunwoo's brain scrambles. Did that serum just rewrite his entire anatomy? The drone locks onto the beast, identifying him as Han. The robotic voice confirms a successful maximum power awakening. Han cracks his knuckles, grinning like a demon. The system finally blessed him. He's just pissed he's stuck in this underground hellhole instead of flexing on the surface. He's itching to hunt down every single bully who ever called him scrawny. His eyes lock onto Sunwoo with pure killing intent. "Shame, my first victim has to be some random kid," he sneers. But Sunwoo isn't here to play victim. He instantly closes the gap, throwing a vicious right hook. Caught off guard by the sheer disrespect, the mutant stumbles backward. "You little rat," Han barks, his ego bruised. Does this base stat loser really think he can step up to a fully buffed apex predator? Sunwoo's mind runs the numbers. Just as he calculated, the serum boosted raw power, but his enemy's reaction speed is still trash. If he stays tight and fights inside the pocket, he can absolutely drop this giant. But then, the impossible happens. Boom! Han teleports right into his blind spot. A colossal fist connects with Sunwoo's skull like a wrecking ball. Stars explode in Sunwoo's vision. He's moving way too slow to track this beast. Desperate, he plants a palm on the concrete, sweeping his leg for a brutal counter. Too slow. Han intercepts the motion, hammering a fist straight into Sunwoo's spine. Blood sprays from the kid's mouth as the mutant snatches him by the ankles like a rag doll. "I don't even need technique anymore," Han gloats, swinging Sunwoo through the air. Raw stats beat everything. He violently chokeslams our boy straight into the unforgiving concrete. The world spins. Through blurry, blood-soaked vision, Sunwoo watches the Titan loom over him, cackling about what a fun little toy he's found. Han licks his lips, wondering out loud how many bones he can snap before the kid flatlines. He launches himself into the air, screaming about his absolute supremacy. Crack! He brings his boot down hard, directly crushing Sunwoo's arm. Standing over his broken prey, Han delivers a twisted biology lesson. Want to secure a clean kill? Always shatter the ribcage. He ruthlessly stomps on Sunwoo's chest. The camera pans away, flashing back to a top-secret file. We cut to a shadowy office. Misuk leans over the director's desk, dropping a bombshell. The test results she pulled? Absolutely terrifying. She reveals this kid naturally outputs 10 times the force of an average pro athlete. The director narrows his eyes. Spit it out. What exactly are we dealing with? A sinister smirk creeps across Misuk's face. His bone density alone defies science. Biologically, our boy isn't even human. He's a freak of nature. Snap back to reality. Sunwoo's eyes snap open. His crushed hand violently grips Han's ankle. The mutant gasps in shock as the kid instantly retaliates with a low, sweeping kick. Han frantically hops back, swiping down to break the grip. But Sunwoo is already a ghost, executing a flawless backward roll to reset the distance. Cold sweat drips down Han's face. How is this punk still breathing? He didn't even inject the serum. The math isn't mathing. I must have held back, Han rationalizes, coping hard. Meanwhile, Sunwoo's battle IQ kicks in. His scanner-like eyes notice something critical. The giant is gassing out. The drug maxed out his strength but totally drained his cardio pool. If Sunwoo can thread the needle and land one pixel-perfect strike, it's game over. Time to drop the heavy swings. Speed beats power right now. He lowers his stance and rockets straight toward the juggernaut. Triggered, Han roars, mocking the kid for rushing back into the meat grinder. He stretches out his massive arms for a lethal bear hug. Whiff. Sunwoo slips under the grab, driving a piston-like jab right into Han's nose. Desperate, the giant dives for a sloppy double-leg takedown. Sunwoo vaults off the ground, cracking him in the jaw mid-air. He lands and unleashes an absolute hurricane of lightning-fast hooks, turning Han's face into a punching bag. The mutant starts to crumble. Sunwoo winds up for the fatality. But wait, plot twist. Han's eyes flash with malice. He tanked the hits on purpose, locking his massive hands around both of Sunwoo's wrists. Checkmate. Loser. Han spits blood, gloating about his genius bait and switch. But Sunwoo doesn't panic. He just tilts his head. Oh, really? Did you honestly think I'd just let you grab me? The giant blinks, completely lost. What the hell are you babbling about? Sunwoo smirks. Ever watch National Geographic? Do you know why kangaroos intentionally lock up their opponent's arms before attacking? Han's brain short-circuits. Before he can even process the question, Sunwoo uses the giant's own grip as leverage. He launches his entire body upward, burying both feet directly into Han's face with bone-shattering force. The mutant's jaw literally shifts. He crashes to the floor, his brain completely knocked offline. Paralysis sets in. Han is losing his mind. How did a base-level scrub just style on him? But as his vision blurs, he spots it. Sunwoo's unopened lockbox, the untouched serum. A sick realization hits him. One dose just wasn't enough to reach his final form. He greedily snatches the syringe. Sunwoo spots the play and sprints to intercept the rejected buff, but he's a fraction of a second too late. Han ruthlessly plunges the second needle straight into his own jugular. The drone's robotic voice confirms a stamina buff, and boom, Han goes full sicko mode, launching himself right at our boy. He viciously headbutts Sunwoo straight in the gut, pinning his limbs down while screaming, "You thought I was just some average thug?" Han violently slams him into the concrete. Sunwoo is literally coughing up crimson while that creepy flying camera just hovers there, recording every brutal second. "Back off," Han barks at the drone. He isn't finished playing with his food. There's one last twisted thing he needs to pull off. Tired of always being treated like bottom-tier trash, he wraps his hands around Sunwoo's throat, roaring, "Now you know how it feels to be helpless." In Han's twisted mind, street rats like Sunwoo just need to be exterminated. Meanwhile, our MC's vision is fading to black, his last thought flashing to his dad. Suddenly, the chaotic arena goes dead silent. Both fighters just crumple to the ground, completely unresponsive. The drone zooms in, coldly broadcasting that a player has flatlined. Game over. Cut to the VIP room, where the director is losing his absolute mind. "The hell do you mean dead? What just happened down there?" Mook casually pulls up the stats. Han, totally overdosed. Popping 2 experimental serums back-to-back has a survival rate of literally less than 0.5%. Bro was already juiced up on the strength steroid, so stacking the stamina booster on top? Yeah, he basically signed his own death warrant. The director scoffs, realizing the meathead just played himself. "This school kid practically won the lottery," he mutters. But Masuki chimes in, shutting that theory down quick. Calling it luck, ignores how insanely unique his anatomy is. The director rolls his eyes, arguing that even so, having crazy dense bones won't save him. This kid is stepping into a shark tank, and there are absolute titans lurking in the upcoming brackets. Besides, modern science is insane right now. These tournament serums can mutate muscles, supercharge organs, and spike hormones to godly levels. Yeah, but there's a catch, Miso interrupts. No chemical cocktail can forge unbreakable bones. There's a biological limit for a reason. Smirking, the director leans back. He's hyped to see if this kid will actually deliver top-tier entertainment once he hits the main event. He demands a status update. Miso confirms Sunwoo survived the brutal initiation phase and is currently getting patched up in the medbay. Next up, he's getting thrown into the grinder against chemically enhanced freaks. Back in the Stark White clinic, our boy wakes up incredibly disoriented. Is he actually breathing? Did his opponent really self-destruct? He barely survived his very first brawl. He forcefully smacks himself back to reality. Quitting isn't an option. He's the absolute last lifeline his family has. With pure murder in his eyes, he glares at the hovering camera. The machine coldly announces that the surviving victors are locked and loaded. It commands him to report to the main lobby immediately. The creepy doctor chimes in, letting him know this AI pet is his new tour guide for this hellhole. Just obey its orders and you'll stay breathing, the doc warns. Oh, and fun fact, these flying bots are strapped with military-grade firepower, so trying to pull a fast one would be an instant wipeout. Sunwoo trails behind the machine, stepping out of the clinic and questioning what kind of twisted facility he's in. Walking down a massive, heavily fortified underground corridor, it hits him. The organizers made damn sure 0 participants are seeing daylight anytime soon. Man, I just wanted to give my mom a quick ring, he curses internally. But he forces himself to trust the deal he made. The VIPs swore they'd keep his parents safe as long as he bled for them. He has to clutch this. But this deathmatch is way out of his league. Bro genuinely thought he was the apex predator, but if some random street thug was that cracked, what kind of absolute demons are waiting for him next? The drone chimes in, confirming his arrival. The massive blast doors slowly grind open, and Sunwoo steps into the arena. His jaw drops at the absolute madness in front of him, totally surrounded by dozens of those mechanical floating guards. The lead AI echoes through the massive hall. All combatants present. Phase 2 initiates with exactly 124 survivors. It orders everyone to circle up around the gigantic jumbotron for the official rule breakdown. Sunwoo looks around and realizes he's trapped in a sea of absolute units. Hulking, scarred beasts everywhere. He's low-key panicking. These dudes make his first-round opponent look like a toddler. He immediately decides to play the stealth game, lay low, stay out of sight, and preserve his HP until the bell actually rings. But stealth isn't an option. Some massive dude next to him growls, "Hey, fresh meat." The giant flexes, asking how a high schooler even made the cut, and if he wants to be his personal punching bag. Sunwoo curses his luck. Rocking a literal school uniform is an instant target on his back. As he tries to walk away, he overhears the gossip. The other fighters are already whispering that he only advanced because his opponent couldn't handle the juice. The fact that he's completely sober and still dressed for homeroom, they figure the sponsors just threw a lamb to the slaughter for some sick, bloody content. One of the meatheads laughs, saying he was desperate for a warm-up, and cracking this kid's skull would be prime entertainment. But his buddy points out that someone else is already claiming the free kill. Before Sunwoo can even take another step, that same hulking giant barks, "Hey," I said, "let's play a game, little boy." Literal worst-case scenario. Sunwoo groans internally. A massive, heavy hand suddenly clamps down hard onto his skull. The giant breathes down his neck, whispering that he's going to snap him in half right here. Sunwoo's eyes go completely cold. He realizes playing nice won't work in this jungle. If he wants to survive this den of monsters, he's got to show zero mercy. The giant winds up for a lethal strike. But our boy? He instantly locks in, cocking his fist back for a devastating counter. Right before these two throw down, a total stranger steps in. The absolute unit of a dude glares, demanding to know what his problem is. Four Eyes totally deadpans, telling him to chill. The musclehead snatches his wrist, flashing a cocky smirk while demanding a name. "Just a passing kid." The glasses dude shrugs, effortlessly yanking his hand free. The giant scoffs, calling him a pathetic half-pint rocking a cheap cyborg arm. He taunts him, asking if he seriously wants to die, protecting some worthless scrub. Meanwhile, our boy Sunwoo is having an internal meltdown, knowing he needs to lay low. Taking damage right now is a massive red flag. The tension skyrockets as the two fighters square up. Sunwoo clenches his fists, thinking, "Screw this. I'm done playing it safe." But literally, a millisecond before he jumps into the bloodbath, a deafening gunshot echoes through the room. He whips his head around. A security drone just completely obliterated a random player's skull. A robotic voice coldly announces the briefing is starting, warning that any pre-game brawling will result in instant execution by a massive swarm of killer drones hovering right above their heads. Sunwoo freezes, cold sweat dropping as he realizes these psychos actually murder people like it is nothing. Making it out alive suddenly feels impossible. Suddenly, the giant monitor flickers to life, broadcasting a mysterious host who cheerfully welcomes the fresh meat. He smugly points out that the initial drug test phase was just a freebie. Nobody got eliminated, assuming they survived the poison. But the kid gloves are off. From this second forward, losing equals elimination. And in this twisted game, eliminated means getting your body totally wrecked beyond repair. Yet, every single psycho in that room is hyped, completely blinded by the 10 billion won grand prize. The crowd erupts into feral cheers. Amidst the chaos, Sunwoo stays locked in. Earning that kind of cash would permanently fix his family's completely broken life. The digital host smirks, dropping a massive reality check. Only one absolute beast takes home the crown. But hey, silver lining. Anyone surviving the top 16 gets a sweet 5% cut of the billionaire VIP betting pool. To milk this, every single competitor gets their own dedicated livestream channel. Plus, a personal drone acts as a guide and a super intrusive floating camera. Sunwoo stares at the metal sphere, completely weirded out. The rules are sick but simple. Ultra-rich VIPs tune into their favorite fighters' streams and dump insane amounts of cash on them. Basically, it is a bloody popularity contest. Flex harder, go viral, bag the bag. They literally need to farm clout from these elites to become multimillionaires. Next up, the host announces they will be crashing in 5-person dorms until the bloodbath wraps up. They get to pick their own squads, and the drones will handle customer support. With that, the host commands everyone to hit their dorms. Off to the side, those two aggressive meatheads start scheming. They realize teaming up with heavy hitters is the ultimate clout-chasing hack. So, they completely ghost our MC, refusing to bunk with a nobody who pulls 0 views. Sunwoo practically fumes, stressing over how brutally hard finding a squad is going to be. But out of nowhere, that totally shredded older dude pats his shoulder, telling him to chill. The vet promises to watch his back until the actual death matches begin. Sunwoo notices the guy's massive hands slightly shaking, but right as he glances up, a mysterious blonde dude casually strolls past. A spark of recognition hits Sunwoo, but he brushes it off as impossible. Meanwhile, the shredded grandpa points out an empty dorm that looks completely drama-free. Sunwoo stares at him, totally baffled, asking why the heck he would team up with the literal outcast, especially after catching a beating for him earlier. He suspects this old guy has a hidden agenda, knowing full well that sticking together could turn into a massive death trap. The older dude just grins, asking if he is tagging along. Sunwoo sighs and follows his lead. Cut back to those 2 brainless thugs totally panicking. They realize their view count is going to completely tank, dropping them to dead last. The smarter one smirks, bragging about his genius play, crashing a dorm packed with absolute fan favorites. Yeah, sharing a room with literal monsters is basically a massive death wish. But hey, leeching off their stream means securing that precious broadcast time. His buddy nods vigorously, totally convinced those heavyweights will pull VIPs like an absolute magnet. Meanwhile, inside a completely different room, 3 hulking, steroid-pumped giants are chilling. The door creaks open. It is the blonde guy from earlier. He casually locks the door behind him and steps right up to the massive alpha in the middle. "Nice spot," he mutters, casually telling the beast to scoot over. The alpha shoots up, absolutely furious, pointing out that this kid locked the door before the drone cameras could enter. He growls, asking if the kid has a massive death wish. But in a blur of motion, the blonde pretty boy strikes, jamming something straight into the Titan's throat. Using literally just 2 fingers, a sickening crunch echoes. The giant completely crumples to the floor, knocked out cold with a brutally caved-in windpipe. Wiping his hand, he looks at the remaining goons, politely asking if anyone else wants a proper greeting. Sweating bullets and violently shaking, the 2 giants shake their heads. "Cool. Keep your mouths shut," he whispers with a psychotic smile, dropping a hint that he has another special someone to hunt down. Enter Ma Suran, 19 years old and absolutely lethal. Smash cut back to the Neon City. Inside a sleek black car, Min-suk drops intel that the corrupt vice chairman just partnered up with the reigning champ, Choi. The director violently curses, realizing this monopoly means 0 chance for anyone else to draft the beast, leaving him stuck, betting his entire career on a literal high schooler. But Min-suk fiercely defends the play. If Sunwoo somehow fumbles before the top 16, they can absolutely pump him full of combat drugs again. Thanks to his freakish genetics, Sunwoo's body can soak up 100% of the juice, taking that massive buff to the limit. Plus, his skeleton is already stacked with bones literally 10 times denser than a normal human's. Pop that enhancement serum, and he's instantly god tier. The director schemes. Keeping Seonho caged under his thumb is top priority, but Min-suk drops a reality check. The other wealthy elites are bound to start thirsting over his potential. Min-suk brushes off the panic though. Why? Because Seonho just got thrown into a dorm with 5 literal nobodies who tanked their view counts last round. The director is absolutely floored. Cutting back to the cell, the resident boomer groans about their dead-end clout situation. With the audience simping over the top-tier champions, they are basically invisible. Yet, hiding in this absolute dumpster fire of a squad is a total beast. People are hardcore sleeping on her just because she's the only girl stepping into the bloodbath. Enter 23-year-old Amanda Grossi, a lethal hybrid of capoeira, rhythm, and jiu-jitsu chokeholds. Then you have the absolute smallest dude in the entire bracket. Meet 25-year-old boxer Minion King. Capping off the roster, 28-year-old Min, who is completely unhinged and severely lacking brain cells. Suddenly, 5 camera drones swarm the cell. The old dude barks that it is showtime, they need to farm engagement right now, or they can kiss their betting bags goodbye. Without missing a beat, the boomer launches himself into the air, slams a palm into the concrete, and violently pumps out single-arm push-ups. Seonho awkwardly sweat drops, doubting the flex. Right as Amanda casually stretches, she jams a single digit into the ground, hoists her entire body weight, and locks into a flawless one-finger plank. Seonho's jaw practically hits the floor, trying to process that raw core strength. Now, both of them are just aggressively repping out push-ups. The pint-sized boxer scoffs, calling their little clout-chasing stunt pure cringe. In a blink, he blitzes across the room at Mach speed, teleporting back to his spot, and leaving Seonho absolutely shook. Our guy cannot fathom that insane footwork. But then, the camera pans, and the psycho roommate is legitimately trying to lick the old man's elbow. Seonho just deadpans at the absolute chaos unfolding around him. It is a terrifying mix of peak athleticism and pure brain rot. The metal doors loudly slam shut, and the glowing monitor above them flashes the official deathmatch brackets. Everyone locks eyes with their targets. Seonho gets paired up against a menacing thug rocking a giant X scar across his skull. Cutting back to the VIP suite, the big boss questions Kai's power scaling. Min-suk drops the lore. The dude comes from the underground Lethwei circuit, boasting a flawless, undefeated record. The director demands to know what Lethwei even is. Min-suk breaks it down as a savage Burmese martial art, sharing vibes with Muay Thai. But the rulebook is way darker, making it an absolute slaughterfest in comparison. The boss questions the hype, noting that plenty of combat styles allow fighters to throw brutal elbows and flying knees. But Min-suk hits him with the grim reality. Lethwei fighters do not wear gloves. It is raw, bare-knuckle violence. Oh, and headbutts are totally legal. Smashing your opponent with the hardest bone in the skull is practically a guaranteed critical hit. It is exactly why mainstream leagues ban that move instantly. But wait, the actual nightmare fuel of this sport is something way worse. The director leans in, and Min-suk reveals the ultimate cheat code. These absolute menaces are allowed to aim directly for the back of the neck and skull. A rabbit punch like that means instant paralysis or a one-way ticket to the afterlife, making Kai potentially the most lethal threat on the entire roster. When his official career wrapped up, he didn't retire, he just took the bloodshed to the streets, until a massive crime syndicate picked him up. The boss is completely stunned, absorbing the fact that Kai basically hunted down legendary street brawlers for fun because the arena just wasn't satisfying his bloodlust anymore. The director starts sweating, wondering if their golden boy can survive this monster. Min-suk admits it is a massive coin toss right now. Up until now, Seonho has only been trading blows with untrained meatheads like Big Bear and those low-tier loan sharks. Stepping into the cage with a Lethwei demon is a whole different ballgame. Cutting back to the sterile barracks, the squad is knocked out inside their sleeping capsules. Seonho's eyes snap open, the glass hisses away, and he questions his time loss. Instantly, he realizes his physical stats have skyrocketed. The heavy fatigue is totally wiped, replaced by this crazy, unexplainable surge of energy. A light bulb goes off in his head. He has felt this exact same glitch in the Matrix before. Right after his brutal clash with Big Bear, he caught this exact same permanent stat buff. Suddenly, Val chimes in from behind, telling him to stop overthinking his glow-up. He explains the science. When you shred your muscles past their breaking point, they mutate into something way tougher. Val bets that Seonho had never actually redlined his body until this tournament. The math starts mathing for our MC. That brawl against Big Bear definitely broke his limits. Val points out that his healing factor is still suspiciously cracked, straight up asking if he got injected with some premium stim pack. Dodging the question, Seonho hits him with the real burning mystery. He demands to know why Val stepped up to save his life earlier, knowing he could have been packed in a body bag for it. Val sighs, dropping his guard, confessing that our MC gives off massive vibes of his own kid. He admits his dark past. If he hadn't fumbled his role as a dad, his boy never would have ended up hunted by the underground mob. Our MC straight up asks why the older dude even joined this bloodbath, and the guy admits he's drowning in debt. He just wants his family back together. But watching our boy solo this nightmare totally triggered some heavy guilt over the son he ghosted. He literally couldn't just stand by while a kid got wrecked. Unfazed, Seonho drops a massive reality check, telling him to stop playing hero. If he actually wants redemption, he needs to survive and be a legit dad. Catching a body in this underground pit does nobody any good. That completely strikes a nerve. The dude yanks Seonho by the collar, snapping that he's acting totally dramatic over a minor save. But their tense moment gets interrupted by some random fighter throwing a massive tantrum nearby, whining about not getting booked in the main coliseum. The guy calls the organizers brain dead, flexing that he's built different because he can lick his own elbow. Rolling his eyes, the older man points out that the real crowd pleasers go down in the main arena, meaning the rest of them are stuck in the dusty prelim stage. And looking at the brackets, their squad has literally zero hype. The only reason everyone else is fighting under the big lights, except Menon, is because they got matched against absolute heavyweights who draw massive crowds. Seonho just smirks, claiming this is literally the ultimate setup. The old guy looks at him like he's completely lost his mind, but our boy is locked in. He knows this is the perfect stage to flex their dorm's power. Before the old guy can argue, Menon slides in with some insane lore drops. The main arena isn't just packed with randoms. Seonho freezes. Menon reveals they are dealing with 16 literal VIPs watching live. We're talking global elites who pull the strings. Seonho's eyes light up. If the heavy hitters are watching, that shady talent scout has to be lurking around. He desperately needs answers about his mom. Cut to pitch black. The director and Masuk pull up to a super sketchy warehouse. The director is visibly disgusted, demanding to know why they're in a literal dump. Misuk calmly explains that the combat zone's coordinates are top secret, known only to the top brass. So, they have to use these blind rendezvous points to stay off the grid. But Misuk drops a bomb. Someone else has been creeping on Seonho's livestream. The director starts sweating, instantly paranoid. He panics, thinking corporate is investigating them. Suddenly, a voice echoes from the rafters, telling him to chill with the conspiracy theories. Enter Cha Sigong, the 19-year-old outcast of the Rosen group. She casually flexes that she only tuned in because Seonho caught her vibe. The director instantly gets venomous, reminding her she just got booted from the conglomerate. He calls her a pathetic sewer rat for stalking his moves. Misuk tries to play peacemaker, joking about sibling bonding, but the director shuts that down fast. She is no sister of his. She is just the mistress's kid. Unbothered, Sigong steps right into his personal space, calling him toxic. She points out she literally skipped high school just to play corporate games with her brothers, but shadowing him actually led her to this absolute goldmine of a deathmatch. So, she drops a deeply sarcastic thank you. The director completely ignores her bait, barking at her to vanish. But right on cue, a slick ride rolls in, guided by a drone that confirms their VIP transport. They get loaded up, blindfolded, and shipped straight to the drop zone. Once the green light hits, Sigong rips her blindfold off. Her jaw hits the floor as she stares through massive glass at pure chaos. She quickly realizes she is inside a subterranean thunderdome. The guard strictly informs her this is the VIP sector overlooking the main pit, and she is chilling in one of the 16 exclusive suites. Sigong smirks. She has finally crashed her big brother's secret playground. Meanwhile, over in the director's massive suite, he admits the scale of this operation is insane. Misuk updates him. Once the current bloodbath wraps, Seonho's crew from room 10 is up next. But the director is completely frozen. He is staring down at the arena floor, which is totally pulverized. Standing in the rubble is a blonde kid who just effortlessly deleted a massive tank. Terrified, he demands to know who this absolute monster is. Misuk names him Mu Saran. Turns out, there is another teenager tearing up the brackets. The director is mind-blown, but Misuk clarifies the kid dropped out, so technically he is jobless. But here is the craziest part. 2 literal demons spawned from the exact same high school. The director is stunned. Misuk confirms that this walking disaster, Mu Saran, walked the same halls as Seonho. Down in the pit, the blonde menace coldly glares at the unconscious giant at his feet. The referee drone hovers over the carnage, officially declaring Mu Saran the winner and closing out the bloodbath between Room 9 and Room 20. The system announces the next matchup, Room 10 going head-to-head with Room 3. The massive steel doors grind open. As our crew steps out, they are totally paralyzed by the sheer size of the Colosseum. The old man is speechless, realizing this is on a totally different level, compared to the tutorial stage. Hovering above, the drone drops the rules. Everyone is benched for now, except for player Min King, who is up first. Our boy is down in the pit, totally hyped for his brawl. Overhead, the drone announces that, since the current rounds are officially wrapped up, all cleared fighters need to bounce immediately. The blonde dude brushes past our rookie, leaving the old man sweating up in the stands, praying. Minho keeps his cool under pressure. Suddenly, a projectile whizzes past his head, leaving him totally baffled about where that rock even came from. He shoots Minho a death glare, questioning if he actually caught that slick move. This dude literally faked a hair flip just to launch a pebble at him. The guy is an absolute menace, pulling off a trick so insanely fast most regular humans would completely miss it. As the blonde competitor struts by, he casually drops that the high schooler hanging with their crew is acting way too cocky. Minsu instantly shuts that down, completely disagreeing. Calling him a total moron, the blonde demands to know what he means. Minsu fiercely locks eyes with him, declaring that is straight up impossible, forcing Minho to instinctively stumble backward. The old man freaks out, asking what just went down and why the kid is acting so jumpy. Amanda coldly brushes it off, explaining that our protagonist's heightened senses pick up on the tiniest shifts in the room. He is literally reading their raw, unfiltered bloodlust like an open book. Without another word, the rival turns on his heel and vanishes through the exit. Left in the dust, Minho is absolutely shook, questioning what just hit him, and whether his mind is just playing twisted games. But no, that brutal premonition flashing in his brain was crystal clear. Doubt creeps in as he wonders if he has already hit his absolute limit, doubting he could ever claim his ultimate revenge while trapped in this pathetic, weak state. Out of nowhere, a deep voice over his shoulder growls, demanding to know who he is eyeing. Minho whips around, coming face to face with an absolute mountain of a man lurking inside one of the prep rooms. Enter Sung-woon, the shady hotel president. He smirks, claiming he scouted this beast for his raw talent, though he originally assumed the guy's background was strictly defensive, completely lacking any lethal striking moves. Stepping out from the shadows, The long-haired lackey chimes in, bragging that it seriously does not matter how insane a fighter's punch combinations are. Every single ounce of that striking power turns to complete garbage. The exact second an elite wrestler drags them down to the mat. Once this absolute tank locks onto his prey, the arsenal of brutal techniques is practically endless. We are talking skull-crushing throws, inescapable joint locks, and suffocating holds. Nobody can survive that kind of overwhelming pressure, which proves exactly why wrestlers absolutely dominate the mixed martial arts scene. Honestly, mastering the ground game is basically the ultimate cheat code for any professional cage fighter. Dodging a flying fist is one thing, but trying to halt 200 pounds of pure muscle bulldozing right into you? Total nightmare fuel. Throw in an insane size disadvantage, and it is pretty much game over for Minho, as the towering giant glares down at him like fresh prey. Breaking the tension, the mechanical drone chimes in, confirming both gladiators are locked and loaded for the highly anticipated bloodbath between Minho and Park. Our underdog drops into a fierce combat stance. Flashing a cocky smirk, Park mocks him, asking if he is just some amateur playing boxer. To the giant, Minho looks like a fragile little wimp who has never survived a genuine street brawl, making him actually feel a tiny bit of pity. Bam! Before the giant can even blink, Minho launches a devastating hook straight into his skull. Blood instantly sprays from a nasty gash over his eye, leaving him screaming in pure agony and utter disbelief. Minho coldly claps back, daring the brute to call him weak again. Still reeling from the shockwave, Park forces himself to snap out of it and dial in his shattered focus. Blinking through the blood with his one good eye, he watches the kid practically teleport toward him. Panic sets in as he realizes he absolutely cannot track this insane speed. The rookie exploits his fresh blind spot like an absolute predator. He is moving way too fast. Thwack! Another savage right cross connects with bone, targeting the exact same busted socket before immediately shattering his nose with a brutal follow-up. Desperate, the hulking wrestler lunges forward to trap his slippery target, but Minho simply dances out of range, unleashing a blistering combo that turns the giant into his personal punching bag. Internally freaking out, Park realizes his remaining vision is rapidly fading to pitch black. The lightning-fast strikes reduce our hero to nothing but a terrifying, shadowy blur. Watching the massacre from the bleachers, the old man wonders if this completely one-sided beatdown is already over. Amanda sharply disagrees, pointing out that the beast is actually starting to parry the onslaught. Down in the dirt, Park throws up a desperate guard, absorbing the impacts. Operating purely on instinct, he flails wildly, trying to snatch his invisible tormentor from every conceivable angle. Caught completely off guard, Minho realizes something is seriously wrong. Mid-strike, a terrifying hum vibrates through the air, sending chills straight down his spine. Even the giant is completely mind-blown by his own awakening. The absolute second his sight vanished, every single nerve ending on his massive frame flared to life. A wicked realization washes over him. Embracing the darkness, he intentionally clamps both eyelids shut. Staring down this crazy tactic, Minho is absolutely clueless about what the monster is planning, wondering how on earth anyone expects to survive a deathmatch totally blind. Assuming the victory is already in the bag, our boy goes in for the kill, only to be completely stunned. The blind giant flawlessly deflects the incoming fatal blow. This insane supernatural flex sends shockwaves through the VIP suite and leaves his crew totally speechless. Panic flares in Minho's chest. One grab, and it is an instant game over. Thinking fast, he pivots hard to the left, but Park is already one step ahead, intercepting his escape route. Using the kid's own momentum against him, he launches him sky high before driving his spine straight into the concrete. The old man gasps, recognizing a flawless suplex, realizing the sheer loss of sight somehow leveled up his brute strength. Up in the luxury box, the shady VIP bursts into a manic, twisted laugh. His long-haired bodyguard analyzes the crazy twist, concluding that going blind served as the perfect trigger to activate the illegal sensory-boosting drug pumping through his veins. Crushed against the floor, Minho looks done for. A sinister grin stretches across Park's bloody face, as he gloats that the kid actually deserves a massive thank you. If it wasn't for this brutal eye trauma, he never would have unlocked his true potential. But just when he thinks he won, smash! Minho defies the odds, throwing a desperate, pinpoint strike straight into the beast's remaining socket. Both corneas are officially destroyed. The VIP completely loses his mind, screaming at the monitors. He cannot comprehend how his unstoppable champion just got permanently blinded. Witnessing this epic comeback, the old man practically cheers, absolutely floored that his boy survived that spine-shattering drop. It is an absolute mystery how he pulled off that miracle counter, but if he keeps matching this chaotic energy, he might actually pull off the ultimate clutch. Even the VIP's elite bodyguard has to admit the tide just violently turned. Lucky for him, scoring a knockout is impossible when the kid's already out cold. The VIP raises an eyebrow, demanding, "What exactly are you getting at? Are you blind? Did you miss that crazy hook?" Minho's fist is literally still frozen in midair. Amanda clenches her jaw, muttering that the kid better snap out of it right now, before Park tracks him down. Speak of the devil. Park staggers to his feet, eyes completely busted, frantically sweeping the arena to pinpoint the kid's location. Park screams, freaking out that his vision is totally gone. But desperation kicks in, and he taps into this wild sensory radar, suddenly detecting a faint outline against the dirt. His mind blows up. He breathes in, picking up every single scent, down to the absolute tiniest speck of dust coating the concrete. It's like a superpower. He catches the exact rhythm of his rival's lungs, feels the atmospheric pressure shifting with every micro-movement, and can even sense the dead space right behind his own back. A twisted grin creeps across his face as he yells out, "Yo, this is absolutely cracked." Maniacal laughter bursts out of him. He brags about being totally bummed over missing out on the muscle-boosting serum, but swears this sensory juice is a million times deadlier. The power rush is spiking by the second. He sneers, tossing out a grim promise. "Consider this my thank you present. I am wiping you off the map. Right here, right now." Launching himself like a human missile, he catapults straight toward Minho. Inside the kid's shattered subconscious, pure panic sets in. His muscles are totally locked up. Flashbacks hit him hard, the brutal image of his older brother, crushed and bleeding out right before his eyes. A fierce vow echoes in his mind. He will hunt those monsters down, whatever it takes. He recalls that shady dude creeping out of the shadows, whispering that if he truly craved vengeance against the murderer, he needed to step into the underground, sliding him a pitch-black invite to the deathmatch arena. Snapping back to reality, he catches Pi soaring through the air, practically breathing down his neck. Just as the lethal blow is about to connect, the world around Minho grinds to a halt. He questions why time is dragging. Then it clicks. Wait, the world isn't lagging. I am the one moving at god-tier speed. Pi crushes the ground with his strike, but Minho glitches out of the danger zone, easily dodging the impact. The spectators are completely speechless. Pi is left entirely dumbfounded, wondering how the kid teleported across the ring. Minho just smirks, firing back that, while the psycho was wasting time flexing his brand new radar, he caught a quick breather and is officially back at 100%. Pi analyzes the kid's stance, realizing he's dead serious. The boy's agility has leveled up insanely. Minho cracks his knuckles, taunting his opponent, itching to find out just how long this guy can actually survive, announcing he is kicking things off at level 1. Pi braces for the rush, but his jaw drops when the kid vanishes, moving way faster than his upgraded brain can even process. Miraculously, Pi throws up a guard just in time. The teenager stares at his blocked fist, instantly questioning if that parry was just pure, dumb luck. But then, bam, a second rapid-fire jab gets swatted away. Minho's eyes narrow. Okay, playtime is officially over. He aggressively whips a devastating cross aimed directly at the skull. Pi smoothly slips past the fist, instantly lunging forward to secure a grapple. Minho violently backpedals, totally baffled by how this blind dude is tracking his lightning-fast movements. Meanwhile, Pi is having a literal god-complex moment, feeling the thumping of Minho's heart and predicting every single twitch. In his mind, defeat is straight-up impossible now. He operates with 0 blind spots. Minho calculates the odds, realizing he is going to be slaughtered if he holds back even a single drop of power. It is time for a massive gamble, a full-throttle, head-on collision. He blitzes toward Pi like a blur, banking everything on his ultimate finisher, a lethal right cross. But in a split second of horror, the tables violently turn. A brutal fist from Pi is already rocketing straight into his jaw. As Minho violently crashes into the dirt, Pi pauses, totally confused as to why his prey just collapsed mid-strike. Groaning, the teenager peels himself off the floor, his brain spinning in absolute confusion. He aggressively checks his own pulse, convinced his spine just got snapped in half, questioning if he is experiencing a wild fever dream. Pi shatters the silence, gloating, "If that hit had connected properly, your head would be completely detached from your shoulders. Looks like clumsily tripping over your own feet gave you a second chance." The kid's plot armor is insane. Off to the side, the older spectator spits out that this is total garbage. Minho's hyperspeed is completely useless, and this blind freak is practically reading the future before the strikes even launch. But then his eyes widen at a crazy visual glitch. He watches Minho split into 3 shimmering afterimages. His brain short-circuits trying to process the optical illusion. Without warning, the kid completely drops the serum's enhancement, falling back entirely on pure, raw footwork. The old man questions if the boy's stamina bar is just totally drained. Still, watching that bizarre rhythm, he is left scratching his head, loudly questioning what a base-level speed attack is supposed to accomplish here. He watches Minho coil up for a massive strike and desperately screams at him to back off, warning the kid that sprinting back into that zone is a literal death sentence. But plotting the ultimate plot twist, Minho sinks a devastating, bone-crushing haymaker directly into Pai's skull, warping his features. Immediately dropping low, he elegantly weaves under a vicious counterhook. The kid then begins ghosting around the arena in complex circular patterns, leaving his blinded opponent swinging wildly at empty air. Yet, heavy drops of sweat prove Minho's gas tank is rapidly emptying. The veteran spectator sweats bullets, trying to figure out the strategy and wondering how any damage will be dealt, when he is burning through his endurance just spamming fakeouts. But jaws drop worldwide as another brutal, clean shot explodes against Pai's jaw. The old man is utterly paralyzed, trying to decipher this sorcery. Minho transforms into a relentless phantom, delivering a barrage of strikes from every conceivable angle, while his target helplessly absorbs the punishment. He frantically questions how these phantom motions are actually connecting. Amanda steps in, dropping the cold, hard truth. Those deceptive shadow plays are the exact reason his fists are finding their mark. The kid had naturally ditched the tricky footwork earlier, assuming a blind enemy couldn't be fooled by visuals, but that autopilot mistake just turned him into an incredibly easy, predictable target. Mind blown. The old-timer asks if he is basically pranking a blind guy into thinking he has eyeballs. Amanda shakes her head. It is way deeper. Minho is actively hijacking every single one of his enhanced senses. Sure, that boosted radar makes predicting the trajectory of a punch child's play, but Pai is just a total rookie who barely unlocked this cheat code. Because of that, getting swarmed by top-tier, master-level fakes absolutely scrambles his processing speed. Minho is deliberately generating pure, unadulterated chaos to fry the guy's mental bandwidth, perfectly calculating exactly how much sensory data his opponent can actually digest before his brain completely blue screens. Turns out, little Minho is a completely different beast, weaving through another wild strike before planting a brutal hook right on Pai's jaw. Up in the skybox, Pai's wealthy backer is losing his absolute mind, screaming about throwing cash at a supposed monster who can't even squash a high schooler. But the long-haired dude just smirks, pointing down at the arena. He tells the raging billionaire to look closer at Pai's expression. Does that seriously look like the face of a loser? Down in the dirt, Pai roars that playtime is over. His massive hands suddenly lock onto his target, and he screams at the top of his lungs that the win is finally his. With a vicious spin, the giant completely obliterates Minho into the concrete, sending a wave of absolute shock through the dorm crew, and even that smug, long-haired VIP. But as the dust clears, the crushed body literally glitches out like a phantom. Pai gloats that he crushed the kid, only to freeze because the real Minho is standing inches away, staring him dead in the eyes. Our main guy is totally lost, wondering why the hulking beast just suplexed thin air. The girl next to him drops the truth bomb. Minho didn't just target the body, he hijacked the guy's brain. Confused, he begs for details. She explains that Minho's relentless headshots weren't just for show. Every single impact violently rattled Pai's skull, scrambling his internal wiring. Take that much consecutive blunt force trauma to the dome, and even an enhanced super soldier is going to completely lose their grip on reality. Minho literally hacked the brute's sensory perception. He hardwired Pai's brain into feeling the physical sensation of snapping a spine, even though his hands were completely empty. Watching this absolute masterclass, our boy quietly admits that Minho might actually be out of his league. Down below, the kid just maintains that chilling, dead-eyed stare. Meanwhile, Pai's shattered mind is desperately trying to process the gap in their levels, completely terrified that a teenager outplayed his superhuman instincts. And right on cue, the massive titan just shuts down, dropping face-first into the dirt. A referee drone immediately hovers over the massive body, officially declaring him knocked out cold. The speakers boom, crowning Minho Kang as the undisputed champion. The old man completely loses it cheering, while the wealthy sponsor upstairs throws a massive tantrum, screaming that the whole fight was rigged. Victory secured, Minho is practically running on fumes. Catching his breath, he sends a silent message to his brother. Phase 1 of their revenge plan is finally complete. Cutting over to a totally different luxury suite, a wealthy girl realizes these aren't regular humans brawling. Suddenly, her older brother's absolute obsession with this underground blood sport makes perfect sense. Her bodyguard leans in and clarifies that the violence is just the appetizer. This shady facility actually exists to fulfill every twisted, hyper-illegal fantasy the elite could possibly dream up. We are talking way beyond basic money and influence. This shadow empire literally offers untraceable assassinations on a silver platter and supplies exotic, performance-boosting narcotics that completely bypass modern toxicology screens. It is the ultimate sick playground for billionaires who are bored out of their minds. That extreme exclusivity is exactly why these ultra-wealthy elites are willing to gamble their entire reputations on this concrete cage. Connecting the dots, she finally grasps why her middle sibling is currently crushing the eldest in their succession war. The stoic guard nods in agreement. He is completely confident that the director handpicked a lethal weapon for the arena, especially since they hired the most notorious headhunter in the underground circuit. The guard hints that this upcoming bout is the ultimate litmus test. They are basically holding off on making any major power plays until they see this new fighter in action. Meanwhile, in a high-tech observation deck, a shadowy figure glues his eyes to the arena feed. A lab coat approaches, addressing him as Ward Director, confirming all 16 high rollers have taken their seats. He also notes that a mysterious masked VIP just rolled into the compound. The vibe is tense, but the director is extremely hyped for this year's harvest and demands a progress report on the lab rats. The scientist proudly announces they successfully unlocked Stage 2 of the sensory overdrive protocol, and even better, they managed to slash the crippling temporary blowback by a solid 20%. The only catch? That godly healing factor they are desperately chasing hasn't triggered in a single test subject. The masked man coldly labels the whole operation a bust, but the head researcher fiercely defends his life's work. He promises that the chemical cocktail is just now hitting its absolute peak within the host bodies, and the real payout is literally moments away. Plus, they accidentally unlocked an entirely new, terrifying mutation during the clinical trials. After crunching insane amounts of data, the lab geeks are convinced this bizarre side effect is the missing puzzle piece to triggering instant cellular regeneration. The masked boss cuts him off, asking if he's hyping up the dermal armor mutation. Confirming the theory, the VIP demands a live demonstration of this bulletproof skin immediately. Flashing a wicked grin, the doc tells him to just look out the window because their ultimate test subject, Kai, is stepping into the bloodbath right now. Back in the locker room, our boy is casually warming up for the slaughter. The old mentor nervously hovers, reminding him that throwing in the towel is always a valid option. But our guy completely shoots that idea down. Quitting simply isn't in his DNA. Baffled by his chill energy, the veteran asks how a kid facing certain doom has zero pulse elevation. He is practically yawning before a death match. The old man just shakes his head in disbelief, muttering that this kid is an absolute freak of nature. A mechanical referee buzzes down, officially calling Xianwu Kang to the killing floor. Stepping into the blinding stadium lights, he actually pauses, trying to pinpoint the exact moment his fear receptor broke. Growing up, the universe treated him like a literal crash test dummy, putting him through nightmarish trauma that would break an average person. We are talking catastrophic impacts where survival looked mathematically impossible, yet he would always casually dust off his genes. Sure, as a toddler, the pure shock used to make him bawl, but give it a few years? His brain completely numbed out the concept of danger. Naturally, local punks hated his ice-cold aura and constantly tried to break him. No matter how vicious the beatdowns got, the guy literally never blinked. Eventually, the psychological horror of punching a human brick wall utterly terrified his own attackers. Today, the only thing that actually keeps him awake at night is protecting his bloodline. Snapping back to reality, he stares up at the absolute mountain of muscle named Kai, the two locking eyes in the center circle. High above, the corrupt director rubs his hands together as the bell prepares to ring. He quizzes his lackey on Kai's specific serum dosage, and Minok confirms the giant is loaded with the experimental dermal armor compound. The boss raises an eyebrow, demanding to know how some fancy skin condition translates into raw combat power. Minok smirks, clarifying that it's a total game changer. Kai's previous victim was literally shredded to the bone, leaving the director incredibly hyped to see how toughened flesh basically acts like a chainsaw. This dude claims his skin is literal armor, completely immune to normal human attacks. But his opponent packed such ungodly power that a mere graze didn't just break the skin, it totally shredded his muscles into absolute confetti. The heavy-hitting VIPs are already itching to throw cash at him, leaving the director wondering where the real money is gonna flow. Enter Kai, a ruthless pro-Lethwei fighter rocking the insane ability to turn his flesh into solid steel. Someone questions if backing Xianwu is straight-up financial suicide. Minok just smirks, pointing out the obvious. The entire room is dumping their funds on Kai. The kid's betting pool is a total ghost town, that is, until a massive wager drops out of nowhere. The crowd loses it, desperate to know who just dropped a cool 100 million won on the underdog. The director is fuming, demanding a name. Cut to a VIP suite, where an elite bodyguard nervously asks his boss, a powerful heiress, if she knows what she's doing. She just shrugs. No risk, no reward, right? She is betting on her gut instinct because playing it safe will never let her crush her older brothers. If she wants the crown, she has to gamble big. Now, she is just sitting back to see if this high schooler is actually a gold mine or just a massive waste of cash. Back in the blood-stained cage, a camera drone buzzes right into the action. It announces the start of the bloodbath. Our boy immediately locks into a combat stance, swearing to himself he is walking out of here alive. But Kai? He just stands there, totally relaxed, shooting Seon-woo a dead-eyed stare. The kid is super confused. Is this guy even gonna put his hands up? Seon-woo snaps, asking if they are actually throwing down. Kai scoffs, claiming he is a proud warrior, not some street bully pounding on minors. That disrespectful flex boils our boy's blood. Kai casually strolls forward, announcing he is only going to use 10% of his juice. He warns the kid to take the hit and stay down like a good boy. Boom! A lightning-fast kick connects dead center, launching Seon-woo across the cage. Up in the VIP boxes, the director starts sweating bullets. Crumpled on the mat, our boy is fighting for breath. The director groans, seeing the kid totally demolished by a single, lazy strike. To him, the fight is practically over. An old guy in the bleachers grumbles that this matchup is trash and heads for the exit. But Minok, lurking right behind him, drops a truth bomb. Seon-woo isn't actually screaming in agony. He realizes Kai deliberately pulled his punch. The pro was just trying to spook the high schooler into quitting. The old man is stunned. Is Kai throwing the match? Minok shakes his head. It is pure ego. Beating up a literal child is a terrible look for a pro. He explains that obliterating a high schooler would completely tank Kai's street cred, so he is silently demanding Seon-woo to take a dive. Kai saunters over to the downed kid, visibly annoyed, whispering if he is serious right now. He mutters that Seon-woo was supposed to fake a knockout, not just squirm around. He brutally reminds the kid that screaming changes absolutely nothing. He offers one final chance to surrender. Instead, Seon-woo flashes a vicious grin and starts talking massive trash. He roasts Kai, asking if they are in a deathmatch or a high school debate club. Caught completely off guard, Kai's eyes darken. Fine. No more holding back. He promises to serve up a brutal dose of his real power, daring the kid to actually survive his next move. He explodes forward, whipping a lethal kick straight at Seon-woo's skull. But boom, our boy perfectly blocks the strike, making the heiress's jaw drop. The director and the squad are in absolute shock. Seon-woo springs back to his feet as Kai absolutely loses his mind, screaming at him to stay down. The pro spins into a vicious elbow strike, but Seon-woo slips past it like a total ghost. Kai is freaking out, wondering how the kid's reflexes are so insane. Out of nowhere, Seon-woo catches air and brutally smacks the back of Kai's head. The director's eyes practically bulge out of his skull. Up in the VIP box, the heiress is absolutely living for this. Down below, a violently angry Kai growls that he tried to show mercy. Seon-woo just smirks. He tells the pro to shut up about second chances, pointing out the hilarious irony of the situation. After all, the big tough fighter is currently kneeling before a high schooler. That insult cuts deep. Kai sneers, claiming if the kid is weak enough to drop to his knees, he isn't even worthy of catching these hands. But since Seon-woo refuses to play dead and save himself, Kai decides to force him into a coma. Suddenly, Seon-woo freezes, completely paralyzed by an overwhelming, suffocating aura. He cannot twitch a single muscle. Kai coldly announces he is dialing it up to 50% power. Our boy realizes he is totally screwed. Smash! Kai delivers a devastating headbutt, sending the kid crashing into the dirt. But suddenly, Kai recoils, looking completely panicked. His own skull is throbbing in agony. He wonders if he hit too hard until an impossible sight unfolds. Seon-woo instantly bounces right back up. The kid launches a savage kick at Kai's face, forcing the pro to leap backward. Kai is shook, realizing his heavy attack did zero damage. He questions if this kid is even human. Meanwhile, Seon-woo is struggling, his vision swimming with dark spots. Before he can even blink, Kai teleports right into his personal space. A thunderous punch connects with Seon-woo's chest, violently shredding his pectoral muscle. The old man gasps it was barely a graze, but the sheer wind pressure shredded the kid's shirt like a wood chipper. And Minok grimly notes the combo is far from over. Kai instantly follows up with a brutal low kick, then drives a merciless knee deep into Seon-woo's gut, sending a spray of blood raining into the air. Kai zeroes in, raising a lethal elbow aimed right at the back of Seon-woo's neck. Up in the stands, the old guy totally loses it, screaming his lungs out that Kai is about to catch a murder charge. But Kai could not care less. He violently drives Seon-woo's skull straight into the concrete, shattering the floorboards on impact. The dust settles, and Kai just glares coldly at our boy, who is literally planted face first in the rubble. Meanwhile, the old dude keeps shrieking that the giant crossed a major line, but Min just squints, completely mind-blown. When the old man questions his reaction, Min drops a heavy question of his own, wondering what the heck Seon-woo's anatomy is actually built out of. Down in the ring, Kai stares at the wreckage, totally baffled by this kid's vibe. Then it clicks. Right before that elbow connected, Seon-woo had literally headbutted the concrete first. A brutal realization hits Kai, realizing the kid tanked that hit on purpose. He quickly shakes it off, convincing himself the kid just panicked out of pure terror. Still, who casually eats a concrete slam like their skull is forged from pure titanium? Out of nowhere, the rubble shifts, and Seonu pushes himself up. Kai is absolutely floored, his brain short-circuiting as he tries to process this absolute glitch in reality. No performance enhancers, no illegal stims, just raw endurance. Seonu locks his footing and levels a dead-eyed stare straight at his attacker. Up top, the old man's jaw practically unhinges, struggling to comprehend the sheer madness unfolding below. Min whispers that Seonu clearly is not some fragile rookie needing a bodyguard. There is an eerie, unsettling aura radiating off the boy now that he is back on his feet. Kai snaps, barking at the punk to drop the tough guy act. He claims he would have let him walk away cleanly if he had just played dead. Why keep dragging out a lost fight? Seonu simply scoffs, telling the hulking fighter to shut his trash-talking mouth. The kid demands a real show. He wants to find out if Kai actually packs real heat or if he is just all bark and zero bite. Kai mentally plots his next move, deciding that if he wants to break the kid's spirit, he needs to prove that Seonu's offense is completely useless. Seonu smirks, throws his arms wide open, and practically begs Kai to swing, promising he will not even block. Internally, our boy is celebrating, knowing that them sleeping on his potential is exactly the upper hand he needs. Yet, deep down, the absolute disrespect is genuinely boiling his blood. Meanwhile, Kai's ego is flaring up. He bled and sweated to climb to the absolute peak of the fighting food chain. Wiping the floor with professional athletes just did not cut it anymore. In his twisted mind, achieving god-tier warrior status meant staring death right in the face and surviving. So he hunted down underground assassins, crashed rival cartels, and clawed his way through the grime to forge himself into an unstoppable weapon. So naturally, treating a random scrawny teenager like an actual threat feels entirely beneath him. Mocking the boy, Kai invites a free shot, swearing it will not even dent his armor. Boom! Seonu buries a massive haymaker straight into Kai's gut. The spectators gasp, but the real shocker is that Kai tanks the heavy blow without twitching a single muscle. He brushes it off, flexing that the strike was weaker than a breeze, and asserting the kid is entirely out of his league. But a split second later, a sharp sting radiates through his core. Seonu locks eyes with him, promises a round two, and delivers a devastating follow-up strike. This time, the brutal impact absolutely rocks Kai to his bones. Seamlessly, our boy launches a lethal high kick at the giant's temple, but Kai barely intercepts it, roaring in absolute fury. Alarm bells ring in Seonu's head, signaling he needs to evade, fast. Too late. Kai's vicious counterattack slashes right across Seonu's chest. Heart pounding, the kid scrambles backward, realizing his dodge was just a fraction too slow, resetting the tense standoff. Kai barks, demanding to know how many free passes this brat expects to get. In response, Seonu just bursts into a psychotic, mocking laugh right in his face. Triggered, the giant growls, questioning if the punk actually finds this funny. Seonu casually reminds him of his earlier promise, and in one swift motion, aggressively shreds his own shirt off. Boom! The kid flexes an insanely chiseled, battle-hardened physique. Up in the stands, his crew's jaws drop to the floor, completely baffled by his hidden, god-tier gains. Oozing pure cockiness, Seonu smirks, reminding the beast that he swore off blocking. Kai finally exhales, nodding with grim respect. He admits Seonu is way more than just cheap entertainment thrown into the slaughterhouse, but he coldly warns the boy that he brought this impending doom upon himself, rapidly channeling a massive surge of energy. Instead of panicking, our protagonist looks absolutely hyped. Kai declares playtime is officially over, vowing to unleash 100% of his raw, unfiltered lethality. The Titan tightens his fists, veins popping as his max-level strength fully ignites. Seeing this, a terrifyingly calm grin spreads across Seonu's face. Observing from the balcony, the old man questions if the kid has completely lost his marbles. But the girl beside him shakes her head. She notes that Seonu is practically vibrating with sheer adrenaline. The old guy shoots her a confused glare, demanding an explanation. How could anyone stare down a literal monster going all out and not wet themselves? She calmly explains the psychology of a true brawler. Seonu is high on the thrill because an absolute beast like Kai finally sees him as a genuine threat. The boomer stammers, totally failing to grasp how ego matters when death is knocking. She totally relates, revealing that her past rivals always held back at first, instantly writing her off just because she is a girl. But the exact second those enemies flipped the switch and brought their absolute best, the sheer hype of a real fight made her own pulse redline. The old man nervously chuckles, telling her to chill out, though he silently wonders if that manic rush is exactly what is driving the kid. Still, he insists this is definitely not the time to be catching a thrill. Then the quiet kid in the back chimes in, completely validating the vibe. He knows the burn of being dismissed as just some scrawny, helpless nobody. The ultimate drug? Watching the shock wash over their faces the exact moment they realize they are fighting a literal demon, the old man is completely left in stunned silence. He finally pieces it together, realizing these psychos are claiming the kid possesses the unhinged spirit of a born warrior. Down in the pit, an adrenaline-fueled Seonu falls into his stance, completely dialed in, while a majorly ticked-off Kai winds up to unleash absolute carnage. Rush him! Seonu calls the first shot. He launches himself forward, throwing a vicious right hook, but Kai casually tanks it with his thick forearm. Up in the VIP seats, the old-timer winces at the bone-rattling crack. Even a beast like Kai had to feel the sting of that raw kinetic power. But down in the pit, reality sets in for our boy. Hitting this guy feels like punching solid steel, and smirking, the giant promises to pay him right back. Kai unleashes a devastating counter straight into Seonu's arm. The sheer shockwave literally craters the concrete beneath them, forcing a spray of crimson from the kid's lips. The boomer upstairs is left completely speechless. The entire balcony vibrates from the sheer force of the impact, proving Kai is just built entirely different. Sensing blood, Kai goes in for a brutal stomp on the downed fighter. But in the blink of an eye, Seonu vanishes, springing back to his feet before the giant even registers the miss. How the hell did he slip that? The old man gasps. But the quiet kid lurking in the back simply shakes his head. It wasn't a clean escape at all. That massive foot totally scraped his spine. Seonu is running on absolute fumes right now, yet a bizarre sensation starts creeping into his mind. Is it actual terror? Is this towering freak of nature finally making him panic? Locking eyes with his opponent, Seonu refuses to look away. Kai openly mocks him, demanding to know why he won't just accept defeat, but our boy snaps back, telling him to keep his mouth shut. If Kai is a demon, then so is he. Whatever this giant can pull off, Seonu swears he can do it 10 times better. He explodes forward with a lethal elbow strike, but the Titan smoothly sways out of range. Crap, Seonu curses in his head. Grinning like a total maniac, Kai announces an incoming Glasgow kiss. But our hero screams his new mantra once more. Anything you can do, I can top. Throwing his entire body weight into it, he intercepts the strike with a brutal headbutt of his own. The only problem? Kai's skull is built like a literal tank. The sickening collision sends Seonu crashing to the dirt, completely dazed. Standing over him, Kai declares the match finished, mocking his opponent's sloppy, skill-less techniques. He claims the kid is just swinging wildly, like a desperate amateur. But against all logic, a twisted grin spreads across Seonu's bloodied face. Flustered, the giant demands to know what's so funny. He asks if this stubborn punk really plans on dying here. Fine by him, he raises a massive fist to land the killing blow. But right before he drops the hammer, something insane happens. Literal white-hot steam begins radiating off our boy's skin. The crowd completely loses their minds trying to figure out what they're looking at. Up in the stands, the old man rubs his eyes in disbelief, questioning if the kid's body heat is literally vaporizing his own blood. In that hyper-focused state, Seonu gets a sudden, vivid flashback. He always hated throwing hands, constantly feeling like a caged beast that society forced into brawling against his will. But now, is this underground arena actively messing with his head? That unhinged smile won't leave his face, and his blood is screaming for more violence against this absolute unit. As Kai swings a massive leg to end it all, something snaps inside Seonu. Moving with ungodly agility, he rockets off the ground, leaving the giant kicking empty air. Mid-air, he latches onto Kai's skull and delivers a sickening secondary headbutt, making the hardened criminals in the audience physically gasp in shock. Using pure gravity and momentum, he twists his body mid-flight and hurls the massive titan straight into the reinforced concrete wall. Kai's brain short-circuits. He wonders how a human could move with that kind of glitchy speed, but before he can process it, Seonu's knuckles are already buried deep in his face, pinning him against the rubble. The giant smirks, thinking he finally caught the kid slipping, but he's dead wrong. Seonu violently yanks him by the collar, buries a fist deep into his gut, and winds up for a heavy finisher. He sinks a catastrophic blow right into Kai's solar plexus, forcing a primal scream of pure agony from the big man's lungs. Yet, incredibly, the Titan stays on his feet. He stares at Seonu like he's looking at a ghost, wondering if the kid is tweaked out on some hardcore adrenaline cocktail. Does he ever run out of stamina? Refusing to fold, Kai charges back into the pocket. He heavily parries an incoming strike and whips out a lethal roundhouse kick. But Seonu simply slips the attack, ghosting right behind him to deliver a cracking right cross to the jaw. Kai is utterly baffled. What kind of witchcraft is he dealing with? Before the giant can even react, a second brutal haymaker connects with his cheekbone, launching him across the arena. The VIP section goes completely silent. Seeing the absolute monster bleeding out on the floor, Wallace stammers, asking if they just witnessed a murder. But the rich girl leans over the railing, pointing out a grim detail. That crimson puddle? It's not coming from Kai. It's dripping straight from Sionu's mangled knuckles. Down in the dirt, our boy feels like he's heavily intoxicated on pure battle lust. His brain can't compute the sensation. It's like his muscle fibers are physically tearing themselves apart from the inside out. Then, like a horror movie slasher, Kai pushes himself off the ground once more. The girl in the stands is utterly mind-blown, wondering what kind of cheat code allows this guy to keep respawning. Her suited bodyguard breaks it down perfectly. Kai's bizarre muscle density acts like a literal suit of Kevlar armor. His flesh is so unnaturally rigid that hitting him is literally shredding Sionu's own hands to the bone. Realizing the fatal trap, she asks the million-dollar question, does our boy even have a 0.1% chance of surviving this? However, the giant down in the pit is singing a totally different tune. His lungs are burning, and the searing agony shooting through his nerves tells him he's dangerously close to his breaking point. Fighting through badly blurred vision, the Titan decides to wrap this up the dirty way. He targets Sionu's foundation, throwing a nasty low kick designed to snap his shins in half. But with microseconds to spare, Seonu checks the kick perfectly with his own heel. Kai's eyes widen. How does this kid still possess that kind of explosive reaction time? As Seonu unloads another heavy straight, the giant barely manages to get his guard up. But our hero realizes a terrifying flaw every single time he makes contact with this walking brick wall. His own limbs take critical recoil damage. Sensing blood in the water, Kai gets a massive adrenaline spike. He drops his defense and invites a pure, unfiltered slugfest. Watching Seonu eagerly accept the reckless exchange. Throwing wild hooks, our boy starts questioning his entire game plan. Are these strikes even making a dent? Because right now, his dominant hand has gone completely numb. Across the pocket, Kai is eating those knuckles for breakfast, but an eerie, hollow weakness starts flooding his system. He can't logically explain it, but there's no denying the cold truth: his own knockout power is rapidly fading. If he doesn't end this in the next 5 seconds, he's actually going to lose. Spotting a microscopic gap in the kid's defense, he commits to his ultimate trump card. He cues up a signature combo he spent over 10 years mastering in the shadows. A devastating low sweep completely wipes Seonu's feet from under him, sending a fresh splash of crimson into the dirt. Towering over his prey, the giant makes a terrifying promise: those legs are getting snapped right now. Right then, Seonwoo throws a desperate counter kick to tank the hit. Up in the stands, the old guy's jaw straight up drops, watching our boy block raw power using nothing but his bare shin. Kai's brute strength completely shreds Seonwoo's flesh, prompting the old dude to panic, swearing that leg is absolute toast. Seonwoo crumples to the dirt, instant agony flaring as he realizes his knee is wrecked and his muscles are literally ripped apart. Paralyzed, Kai stomps over, screaming victory right in his face, while the elder up top shrieks for him to stop. But plot twist. The second Kai shifts his weight, his own leg violently snaps into pieces. He instantly drops, shrieking in pure agony. Totally mind-blown over what just went down, he tries catching himself, but crack his forearm shatters against the floor. Total glitch in the matrix for this dude. He thinks this has to be a nightmare. His brain spirals, remembering the scientists swearing no enhancement juice could ever toughen human bones. Turns out, Seonwoo galaxy-brained the whole fight, willingly sacrificing his own flesh just to obliterate Kai's skeleton. The crowd is losing their minds over this madman, staring at Kai's mangled, twisted limbs. The old man and the kid are frozen in pure disbelief. Meanwhile, the girl narrows her eyes, totally skeptical, while the suit-wearing president and his right-hand man are just completely stunned. The VIP chick, though? She is absolutely living for this hype, and against all odds, our boy gets back up. The boss upstairs demands answers, so the assistant breaks it down. Kai only survived this long without visibly bleeding, thanks to that insane skin-hardening serum. But that was actually his downfall. His outer shell stayed flawless, while his internal structure was quietly getting pulverized. Bro was basically taking bare-knuckle swings at a literal sledgehammer. Since he was absolutely geeking on painkillers, he felt zero damage. That tough exterior gave him massive fake confidence, meaning right now, Kai's entire skeleton is essentially crushed chalk. A camera drone zooms right into his face, broadcasting his defeat, and the robotic voice loudly declares Kai incapacitated, crowning Seonwoo Kang as the undisputed champion. Cue the absolute hype. Seonwoo roars at the top of his lungs, flexing his victory. Up in the stands, the old dude's brain is short-circuiting, questioning if this kid is a literal zombie to survive that trauma without blacking out. The younger guy right behind him mutters, "Dude is definitely keeping massive secrets." And right on cue, the adrenaline crashes. Seonwoo hits the dirt, completely drained, his final conscious thought drifting to his sick mom. He silently begs her to stay strong just a little longer until he makes it home. Cut to the control room. The dude in the mask grills the medical staff, demanding to know if this kid was secretly juicing. The doc shakes his head, swearing the blood work is totally clean. They plan to run another deep scan post-match for absolute proof. But Mask Bro isn't waiting around. He orders a full background check by stalking the kid's family. We instantly jump to the sterile hospital ward, holding Seonwoo's dad, where his mom is keeping watch. Heavy footsteps interrupt the quiet. She nervously stammers that visiting hours are still open, only to freeze in absolute terror. Massive, hulking enforcers block the doorway, leaving her trembling as she asks what they want. Meanwhile, back at the blood-soaked arena, medics cart erect Seonwoo out on a stretcher. High above, the CEO stares down, acknowledging the insane upset, but heavily doubting this kid can survive the upcoming brackets with his body this trashed. His slimy assistant pitches a stall tactic: throw him in the med bay and delay any official ruling until the lab results drop. But here's the shady part: he plans to slide a secret enhancement compatibility test into the routine checkup. The boss raises an eyebrow, demanding the scoop. The suit smirks, claiming that if the kid's DNA accepts the illegal serum, he instantly rockets to main character status for the championship. The CEO pushes back, asking how they could possibly pull off non-consensual doping without triggering a massive rulebook violation. The sidekick just waves it off, explaining it is a microdose, just to gauge genetic tolerance. Zero visible mutations, zero suspicion, completely under the radar. The president plays devil's advocate. What happens if the kid's body rejects it? The assistant goes ice cold, stating a dead asset is a useless asset, so a failure just means initiating the dark plan B. Flash forward to the intensive care vault, where our battered hero floats inside a futuristic healing tank. A shadowy figure creeps up, gripping a sketchy syringe, slowly cracking the glass seal, to inject Seonwoo while he is completely defenseless. Jumping back to the VIP suite, the assistant is currently scheming out loud, calculating that just one more W blasts this kid straight into the prestigious top 16. The CEO connects the dots, realizing a single victory pushes him through the top 31 threshold, catapulting him forward, based purely on crazy gambling volume. Bingo. But the big boss is skeptical, assuming the high rollers will totally ghost him. Now that he looks like walking roadkill, the assistant scoffs, reminding him of the insane spectacle they just witnessed. A raw, unjuiced rookie sweeping 2 brutal rounds. Statistically impossible, breaking every unwritten rule of this underground blood sport. He confidently predicts that a purely natural brawler cracking the top 62 is going to make the billionaire investors absolutely foam at the mouth. One more flex in the ring, and mountains of cash will rain down on his name. The president scowls, rubbing his temples, complaining it is still a garbage strategy, since a clean fighter literally stands zero chance at bagging the final crown. He presses to pivot to a much safer, predictable champion, but the assistant just flashes a sinister grin and mutters, "Well, look, boss, it's pretty obvious by now. If this kid wants to keep breathing and save his bloodline, he's got to take that serum." The president just scoffs, making it crystal clear. If the boy builds a tolerance, or tanks this next round, he's getting tossed straight in the trash. Without missing a beat, the assistant confirms the backup plan. If the kid fumbles, the hospital security funds for his folks get slashed instantly. Smiling like a total villain, the president nods. Perfect. And honestly, he'll be way too dead to even mourn his parents. The assistant chimes back in, mentioning how sometimes they dispatch a shadow agent just to hand-deliver these sensitive lab drops. The president smirks, calling out the insane perks of being a combat wing plant, running shady, off-the-books drug trials, while everyone else remains completely clueless. But the assistant's face goes dead serious. He ain't just pushing papers, he's literally gambling his own neck out here. Eyebrows raised, the president demands to know why the hell he's playing Russian roulette with his life. Because I know damn well you aren't doing it for my sake. Unfazed, the suit reveals his ultimate obsession, hunting down the absolute strongest apex predator hiding inside the combat wing. To crown that champion, he'd gladly torch his own life or throw anyone else under the bus without a second thought. Loving that ruthless drive, the president chuckles, praising his twisted dedication. But before they can keep plotting, a masked phantom steps from the shadows, declaring time's up. When pressed for the lab drop, the agent delivers a bombshell. Zero reaction. The kid was basically immune. Wait, the serum completely failed? The assistant stammers. The masked guy just nods. Straight up, nothing. The president absolutely loses it, barking orders to scrub the kid from existence and burn every single shred of evidence connecting them, demanding they pull the plug on the parents immediately. But the masked hitman drops a chillingly practical counteroffer. It's way less messy to just wipe the kid out right now, while our boy is still knocked out cold inside that sci-fi healing pod. Meanwhile, down in the combat wing lobby, the blonde kid surveys the room, doing the math. Since all 62 victors got summoned, the tournament bracket is officially locked in. The old-timer next to him sighs, guessing their missing squadmate is still glued to a medbed somewhere. Stretching out, the capoeira queen shrugs it off. Honestly, It's a massive W for him to catch some Z's, especially since the organizers promised to pause the bloodshed until everyone healed up. The blonde dude just stares, absolutely mind-blown by her insane flexibility. Catching him staring, she pivots, pointing out that Mr. No was basically running on fumes anyway. The blonde nods, admitting these brawls usually leave fighters totally wrecked. Just look at him and CO. But somehow, those other two monsters ghosted through without a single scratch, proving they're just built different. Then another kid flexes, hyped about his own freak of nature right arm that nobody saw coming. Even he admits he was low-key shocked watching his own limb mutate into a literal weapon during the scrap. The chatter shifts to Amanda. Apparently, her macho opponent spent the whole match trash-talking, swearing he wouldn't even use his hands, just because he was fighting a girl. Big mistake. She folded him like cheap laundry with one brutal strike. The kid confesses it happened so fast. His brain hasn't even processed the physics of that knockout. Begging for her secret sauce, he asks for tips, but she just flashes a deadly smirk. Why drop the meta, when she might have to mop the floor with him in the next bracket? The kid flinches, caught off guard, but the tension shatters instantly when the resident psycho crashes their circle, throwing a massive tantrum about being ignored when he literally clutched the very first win. Suddenly, the Jumbotron flares to life. A mysterious face hypes up the top 62 survivors, dropping the ultimate bait: win just one more clash, and you fast-track straight to the top 16. The 31 brawlers who survive this bloodbath will be ranked purely by the mountain of cash the VIPs drop on their heads. Only the heaviest hitters secure those 16 spots. And if they survive the gauntlet, a crispy 5% cut of the entire gambling pool goes straight into their pockets. The room instantly erupts. Fighters are literally drooling over the massive bag they could secure. But the screen guy isn't done spitting facts. If they want those high-roller whales throwing cash their way, they gotta put on a cinematic show and bleed for the crowd. Show the VIPs pure, unfiltered dominance. Go ahead and snap a bone, he taunts, reminding them they're literally fighting inside one of the best medical fortresses on the planet. The screen flashes as he prepares to drop the ultimate bracket reveal. Meanwhile, miles away in a Rosen Group penthouse, the head honcho demands to know if they've got backup horses to bet on, just in case Sunwoo flops. His right-hand man smirks. Absolutely. Sliding a tablet across the desk, he highlights a new target. The chairman squints, asking who the hell this guy is. The chilling reply? It's Sunwoo's upcoming opponent. Cut straight back to the arena's medbay. The glass on Sunwoo's hibernation pod hisses open. Our boy jolts awake, violently gasping for his mom. The fog clears from his brain, and pure dread sets in. That wasn't a nightmare. He distinctly remembers the muffled voices of those shadowy suits, plotting to pull the plug on his parents just because his body rejected their twisted chemistry experiment. The timing couldn't be worse, and they banked on him being completely comatose. But plot twist, our boy was conscious the entire time, absorbing every single dirty detail. Adrenaline spikes. It's a literal race against the clock he needs to smash his way out of this facility and rescue his family. Instantly, we slam cut to the director's suite, where the head boss is demanding the raw data on Sunwoo's physical scan. The head scientist nervously adjusts his glasses and admits the kid's stats are off the charts. Eyes narrowing, the director demands to know what special even means. The doctor just stammers, "Sir, he's harboring something impossible inside him." The lab rats stumble onto something their top-tier gear can't fake: his bone density. This dude is rocking a skeleton 10 times thicker than a normal human. The director's jaw drops, but the doc smirks they haven't even scratched the surface. Bracing himself, the boss demands the rest of the stats. Scanning the glowing monitors, the head scientist shatters reality. His healing factor is off the charts. We are talking straight up, real-time cellular regeneration. Dollar signs flash in the executive's eyes. The researcher casually drops the bombshell that this kid might be the missing link for their billion-dollar miracle serum. Realizing they just struck absolute gold, the boss man pivots fast. He immediately barks a desperate order to secure Sunwoo's bloodline. Suddenly, the room's temperature plummets. The doc stammers out a sweaty apology, leaving the director practically screaming for answers. The extraction squad hit a dead end, ghosted. A rival crew beat them to the punch. Cut to the sterile medical wing, where our main guy is currently losing his damn mind. His brain screams one singular command: move, or his family dies. But reality kicks in. He is trapped in an unbreakable concrete cage. Desperation fuels his adrenaline. He scans the lockdown cell, hunting for a ventilation shaft, any tiny crack to squeeze through and break out. He yanks the heavy iron door wide open, only to slam face first into a shadow. He freezes, completely paralyzed by the intruder blocking his path. Out steps the mystery girl from earlier. She flashes a wicked grin, murmuring that the view is much better up close, before dropping her name, Seong Ji-hun. Sunwoo growls, demanding she step aside before things get ugly. Unfazed, She smoothly counters with the ultimate trump card, his mom and dad. His blood runs cold as he demands an explanation. She coolly flips her hair, claiming she already tucked them away safely under her wing. Sunwoo's brain short-circuits trying to process this insane flex. Boom, smash cut to a penthouse suite. Enter the second prince of the Rosen Empire, Chairman Tay's golden boy. Swirling a glass of expensive liquor, he grills his shadow about the missing parents. The suit confirms a total ghosting, pinning the flawless kidnapping on the underground arena's black ops. The young boss arches an eyebrow, questioning how a bloodsport venue pulled this off. His right-hand man just nods, stone-faced. The Colosseum's cleanup crew is notoriously brutal with loose ends. A sinister smirk creeps across the executive's face, perfect. Zero blood on their tailored suits. He had been stressing over staging a messy hit, but fate just handed him a massive freaking win on a silver platter. With that annoying glitch deleted from the system, he sharply pivots. He demands to know if their new gladiator is prepped and ready to bleed. The lackey bows smoothly, assuring total control. Down in the pit, the elite shot callers can summon any meat shield to their private suites at the snap of a finger. These heavy hitters have an all-access pass to wander the compound, minus a handful of black site zones. The heir chuckles, questioning if mixing with those savage monsters is truly the move. The assistant doesn't skip a beat. Honestly, bored billionaires used to drop massive bags of cash just to breathe the same air as those psychos. However, strolling through the deathmatch corridors like a tourist is straight-up suicide. Step outside the armored luxury lounge, and your life expectancy drops to zero. Snap back to the sterile isolation cell. Sunwoo is practically vibrating with anxiety, begging for proof that his family is still breathing. Gi-hun viciously shushes him. She steps into his personal space, whispering a lethal warning to kill the noise if he ever wants to see them alive. Busting out of this fortress is a dead-end fantasy. Boiling over, our guy aggressively rips her grip off his jacket. He spits out a demand for the bitter truth. Her playful vibe instantly shatters into ice-cold seriousness as she brings up his previous shady boss. Yeon is frantically scrubbing his digital footprints. Wiping Sunwoo's bloodline off the face of the map was strike one in burying the evidence. Throw a pack of bloodthirsty debt collectors into the mix, and the target on their backs is massive. Sunwoo starts sweating bullets. The heiress cuts through his panic. She slipped past the heavy guard rotations entirely solo, purely to lock down this off-the-grid conversation. He needs to shut up and take notes. She claims to be their only shield, but our bruised brawler is dangerously close to snapping. He glares daggers, demanding the catch. Reintroducing herself with heavy authority, Song Ji-hun declares she has exactly one demand on her wish list. She wants his soul. The sheer audacity hits him like a freight train, and he angrily barks at her to drop the riddles. Flaunting her elite status, she reveals she holds one of the 16 golden tickets. She needs a flawless killing machine for her wagers, leaving him totally skeptical. Don't let her age fool you. Until her recent dramatic exit, she was literally pulling the puppet strings over at the mega-corporate Rosen Group. To connect the dots for his scrambled brain, she casually drops a nuke. She shares a bloodline with the very scumbag trying to end him. Sunwoo's jaw practically unhinges. She brushes off her brother's treacherous boardroom coup with absolute zero panic. Honestly, she was already packing her bags. Her personal empire is printing money, so getting ousted felt more like a paid vacation. However, watching those incompetent clowns burn her father's legacy to ash? Yeah, that is a hard pass. Not happening while she is breathing. Sunwoo rubs his temples, aggressively asking how corporate warfare ties back to his missing mom and dad. She rips off the band-aid. Welcome to a toxic family dynamic built on non-stop espionage. She had a magnifying glass on her reckless second brother's every single screw-up. Watching him obsessively hunt down our protagonist raised massive red flags. So, she took a detour to his childhood home to dig up the dirt herself. The intel blew her mind. There was zero chance she was letting her rival monopolize a genetic freak of nature built for absolute destruction. Our guy is left buffering. He frantically stammers, completely lost on why his DNA suddenly made him the most wanted man alive. She cuts his existential crisis short. The brutal reality is that an army of psychos is actively hunting his family, dropping his stomach straight into the abyss. He pushes back, demanding to know her master plan if running is off the table. Her response? Dead serious. She knows exactly how this plays out. There is exactly one path to keep you and your folks breathing. She drops the bomb. He instantly snaps, demanding she spit it out. Her masterclass strategy? Total victory. Nothing less. She's orchestrating a massive backdoor deal designed to entirely ruin both of her brothers. She's throwing all her chips on the ultimate champion of the combat wing. This revelation leaves Sunwoo glitching out, completely failing to grasp her endgame. She breaks it down. If this flawless scheme lands, her psycho second brother gets permanently neutralized, trading his luxury life for a prison cell. Those bloodthirsty loan sharks? Simple math. She can literally drown them in cash, barely making a dent in her bank account because she is absolutely loaded. But Sunwoo isn't buying it blindly. He questions why he should trust some shady basement-level alliance, and asks where she gets off acting so cocky. She hits him with cold, hard facts. The combat wing operates on one absolute law. Anyone breaking a promise, the higher-ups straight up delete them from existence. No warnings. Sweating bullets. Sunwoo pieces it together. Wait, you're literally gambling your actual life on my fists? He thinks she has lost her mind, but she counters, reminding him this alliance is mutual survival. Here is the brutal reality once the bracket narrows to the final 16. Any fighter lacking a VIP sponsor gets instantly kicked to the curb. Sunwoo is still spiraling. How can he guarantee his family isn't already toast? Give him one solid reason to trust her. She sighs, pointing out the total blackout protocol in the facility. 0 phones, 0 tech. She physically cannot pull up a proof-of-life selfie. Frustration boiling over, he snaps. Then how am I supposed to blindly trust you inside this total blackout? She smirks. Would you trust a person? Who holds the deepest, darkest secrets of your own parents? Sunwoo's brain short-circuits. He freezes, demanding to know what the hell she means. She leans in, dropping the nuke. Especially someone fully aware of your family's hidden history and exactly where your overpowered genetics came from? He fully loses it, screaming at her to stop playing games and spill the whole truth immediately. But before she can drop lore, the metal doors aggressively slide open, revealing a security drone. Closing the gap, she whispers a final warning. She swears on her life she will keep his family breathing. He just needs to hold the line. Pivoting away, she signals that their time is up. Her final mandate? Block out the noise, secure the championship exclusively with her, and ignore everyone else. The heavy door shuts, leaving our protagonist utterly mind-blown. Hard cut to combat dorm room 10. The veteran fighter is analyzing the stats, noting his own massive bounty spike. Meanwhile, Sunwoo is dead last on the leaderboards. The blonde sidekick chimes in, blaming that trip to the trauma ward. It makes sense, nobody with a brain is risking cash on battered goods, no matter his potential. Suddenly, the dorm room door hisses open. A mechanical drone buzzes in first, broadcasting that player, Sunwoo, has re-entered the chat. He steps through the threshold, radiating pure, suffocating intensity. The old man lights up, hyped to see his boy alive. He points out that Sunwoo looks surprisingly decent, guessing they actually gave him some premium recovery time. But the veteran's smile fades when he registers the absolute murder in Sunwoo's eyes. Vibrating with raw desperation, Sunwoo corners him, demanding the secret. How the hell did he dominate his matches without catching a single scratch? The playful energy vanishes. The old veteran remains dead silent, locking eyes with the kid. Sunwoo, basically vibrating out of his skin, confesses the brutal truth. If he fails to crack the top 16, his family gets executed. Period. He practically begs for any scrap of wisdom. I will do literally whatever it takes. Hearing this proud kid swallow his ego and beg for a mentor completely stuns the old master. The shift in his aura is insane. Sunwoo admits he is asking for a miracle. Out of nowhere, Amanda slides into the conversation, bluntly stating he lacks a lethal finisher. Sunwoo blanks, totally confused by her fight terminology. She breaks down the combat logic. Without a signature knockout strike, controlling the tempo inside the blood-soaked combat wing is virtually impossible, especially when you are throwing down with literal genetic freaks. She casually asks for his base style, completely catching him off guard. He stutters, lacking any real martial arts background to claim. Stepping in, the old master drops low to examine his stance. What about weaponizing those absolute iron shins with a calf kick? He suggests, praising Sunwoo's freakish lower body agility and pinpoint accuracy. The master reveals he had been studying the tapes. During the brutal brawl against Kai, Sunwoo casually tanked a devastating low sweep, using only raw bone density. That move proves he either possesses ridiculous faith in his shins, or his entire skeleton is reinforced steel. He drops some modern fighting knowledge. The calf kick is the current meta. Elite strikers are literally snapping legs and ending careers, with just one clean connection. Challenging the kid, he tells him to demonstrate. Sunwoo shifts his weight, chambering his leg before unleashing a devastating strike. The sheer kinetic force shatters the air, shocking the veteran who instantly recognizes that terrifying, whip-like sound barrier crack. The master confirms it, the boy's potential is terrifying. Suddenly, a massive warning siren starts blaring through the compound, cutting their session short. The entire facility violently shakes like a magnitude 8 earthquake just hit. Total chaos erupts as fighters panic, trying to pinpoint the epicenter. Cut to a maximum security isolation cell. Some absolute monster is shadowboxing with such catastrophic power, they are literally shattering the concrete foundation beneath them. One strike. That was all it took for Ryo Istika to rattle the entire facility down to its core. Sitting comfortably at rank 15, he's stepping up as Seo's next nightmare, bringing the brutal Japanese martial art of Kudo straight to the cage. Meanwhile, The tension is thick back in room 10, where the crew is currently plotting their next move. The old man pitches a brilliant shortcut. Land a clean calf kick, absolutely cripple his opponent's foundation, and bag an easy win without breaking a sweat. Plus, surviving this round without a scratch means that prize money is going straight to the moon. But before Seo can even process the game plan, that total creep materializes behind him like a ghost, whispering that their strategy is straight up garbage. Seo practically jumps out of his skin, stammering out a panicked demand to know where the hell this dude just spawned from. The weirdo just smirks, claiming everyone in the room is delusional if they seriously think a simple calf kick is Seo's ultimate weapon. V isn't having it. He snaps from the back, demanding the freak cut the riddles and spill the tea, to which the psycho casually replies, "It's his headbutt." This absolute unit literally tanked hits from a Lethway champion, using nothing but his own skull, and he did it over and over again. The sheer audacity to keep throwing hands with a concussed brain proves his cranium is the hardest weapon in this entire facility. Flashing a completely unhinged grin, the psycho leans in, literally trying to lick Seo's forehead while our boy desperately shoves him away. V steps in, telling the maniac to chill out. He points out the obvious flaw. Launching a headbutt deals massive recoil damage to the attacker. It's a double-edged sword. Using your own skull as a battering ram is basically asking for a death wish, especially when you're locked in the cage with the absolute mutants prowling the combat ward. It's a zero IQ strategy. Bro would literally flatline from a brain hemorrhage before round 2 even starts. Like he said, pure self-destruction. But the long-haired freak just chuckles. He finds the whole safety-first logic hilarious, reminding everyone that they literally signed their lives away the second they entered this bloodbath. That harsh dose of reality sends a cold chill through the room, leaving the crew totally speechless at his dark mindset. The psycho leans into it, declaring that flinching for even a microsecond against the top-tier predators of the combat ward guarantees one thing: you're getting sent straight to the afterlife, no respawns. The old man is visibly sweating bullets now, totally rattled by this guy's chaotic energy. Unfazed, the freak drops another bomb. Seo isn't the one they should be losing sleep over. V frowns, demanding to know what he's hinting at. Flashing their sinister smirk, he shifts the spotlight to Seo's upcoming opponent, warning them that this guy is a completely twisted anomaly. Because up next on the bloody roster is rank 9, Min Soo Han, clashing against the 22nd ranked veteran, Old Man Park. Smash cut to the highly restricted VIP sector of the ward. The big boss is scanning the combat data, openly admitting that their new serum is dangerously overpowered. He gloats over a recent victory, calling it an absolute masterclass in recruitment. As 3 lifeless bodies drift eerily in a massive fluid tank, the director turns to the doctor, telling him he should be glowing with pride over his kid. The doctor doesn't make eye contact. He just keeps his head bowed, offering a hollow string of gratitude. He mutters that the director made it all happen, while deep down, he is frantically trying to convince his own conscience that he made the right call. Because honestly, his hands were completely tied. Flashback to a timeline before this nightmare arena existed, when his boy was fading fast. Diagnosed with a brutal, muscle-eating disease, his son had practically withered away to nothing, flatlining right before his eyes. The kid had collapsed in a heap, crying out that his legs wouldn't work, desperately pleading for his dad to save him. The memory is agonizing. Despite the medical degree on his wall, he was painfully useless, just a 9-to-5 doctor cashing paychecks, while his own blood slowly slipped away. Just as he was about to hit rock bottom, a mysterious message popped up from the elusive hospital director, a ghost he had never even crossed paths with. And out of all the sketchy places for a late-night meetup, the big boss summoned him straight to the hospital's underground crematorium. Stepping through a hidden gateway, the doctor stumbled into a sci-fi fever dream completely detached from reality. The shadowy facility was plastered with a ledger containing the names of the wealthiest, most untouchable elites on the planet. He couldn't have cared less about whatever twisted underground club these billionaires were running. All that mattered were the data logs from their human trials. Tears streamed down his face as a spark of hope ignited. This crazy tech could actually cure his boy. Right on cue, the director slithered out of the shadows, offering a literal deal with the devil: enroll his son into the program, or walk away empty-handed. He was milliseconds away from blindly selling his soul. But his paternal instincts kicked in. No way was he letting a bunch of mad scientists turn his kid into a guinea pig. Panicking, he bolted from the facility and sprinted straight home, only to be met with a sight that would shatter his sanity. As far as he knew, his boy had claimed he was feeling okay and heading off to class like a normal teenager. But reality hit like a freight train. He had been completely blind to the agonizing, silent hell his son was trapped in, and right then, the kid just looked up and begged for the sweet release of death. The pain had pushed him past his breaking point. Standing there completely shattered, the doctor finally accepted his own crushing powerlessness. With his back against the wall, he plunged headfirst into the bloody underworld of the combat ward, forever haunted by the ultimate question: Did they ever really have a choice? A choice that could have stopped him from mutating into this absolute menace. But time is up, and fight day has officially arrived. A hovering drone buzzes in, giving the green light to step into the ring. The heavy metal doors slide apart, and he marches straight into the Coliseum. Waiting dead center is a grizzled veteran, smirking that the warm-up is over. And get this boomer is not just some random grandpa. He is a certified Krav Maga lethal weapon. On the flip side, we have Min-Soo Han, a prodigy in Kali Arnis. It is a brutal Filipino discipline designed around mastering sticks and short blades before evolving into god-tier hand-to-hand brawling. The mechanical referee hovering between these two beasts blares out the official matchup, Min-Soo Han versus In-Suk Park. The countdown hits 0, and the bloodbath commences. They explode off the starting line. Min-Soo closes the gap in a flash, violently driving two stiff fingers straight into the veteran's shoulder joint. Crimson sprays through the air. In-Suk grits his teeth, totally mind-blown by that piercing strike. Taking critical damage to his dominant arm right off the bat is a massive red flag. The crowd watching from the VIP box completely loses their minds. The blonde spectator practically chokes on his breath, hyping up how Min-Soo literally turned his bare hands into lethal daggers. Nobody, not even a seasoned pro like In-Suk, saw that insane armor-piercing jab coming. But the cocky grin vanishes from Min-Soo's face when he tries to pull back. His digits are completely wedged inside the flesh, triggering major alarm bells. The absolute madman is flexing his raw shoulder muscles to clamp down on the boy's hand like a vice grip. In-Suk chuckles, mocking the rookie for stepping recklessly into his danger zone. He instantly revs up his massive right arm, palm wide open, catching the trapped kid completely off guard. He drops a devastating palm strike, meant to obliterate. Miraculously, Min-Soo rips his bleeding hand loose at the final microsecond, narrowly dodging the blast. The veteran's heavy palm craters the concrete floor instead. The sheer shockwave sends a terrifying chill down Min-Soo's spine, blasting him backward through the air, while debris rains down from the shattered arena floor. Staring at his bloody knuckles, the kid is low-key panicking, trying to process the ungodly raw power radiating from this boomer. How does a human even generate that much kinetic force? Standing tall, In-Suk brushes off the wound, smoothly declaring that applying blade combat principles to an unarmed brawl is a total galaxy brain move. So, to show his appreciation, he promises to return the favor by unleashing his own specialized set of invisible blade techniques. Up in the luxury suite, the VIP chairman squints at the ring, demanding the file on this In-Suk guy. How is some no-name grandpa holding his own against the 9th-ranked elite player in the world? He shoots his assistant a glare, questioning if Min-Soo was actually hyped up for nothing. Seriously, who is this dark horse? The bespectacled aide flips through his tablet, revealing In-Suk is a hardened mercenary specializing in Krav Maga. The director scoffs, unimpressed by the buzzword. He demands to know if that basic military drill is his only trick. The assistant adjusts his glasses, diving into the lore. Back when targeted violence spiked, during the mid-20th century, a brilliant Jewish soldier engineered this exact combat system to shield defenseless citizens from street thugs. It is not about scoring points. It is a brutal survival toolkit that cherry-picks the deadliest moves from global fighting styles. More importantly, it is globally feared for its unparalleled savagery in tight, close-quarters combat. The director rubs his chin, questioning the logic. If the whole point is playing defense, wouldn't the offensive strikes be weak? If he is just a meat shield, he is garbage for their underground operations. But the assistant flashes a cold smirk, stating that is a massive misconception. The boss raises an eyebrow, demanding clarification. The aide drops a chilling truth bomb. When your philosophy of ultimate protection means permanently deleting the threat, the game completely changes. Back on the battlefield, In-Suk locks eyes with his prey. He explodes forward, rushing Min-Soo with terrifying momentum. The kid scoffs, roasting the veteran's sluggish speed, and effortlessly sidesteps the rush. Flashing an arrogant smirk, Min-Soo trashes his opponent for lagging like a broken game, warning him not to embarrass himself by swinging so wildly. In a blink, the boy lands a punishing jab directly onto In-Suk's temple. The veteran instantly tries to clap back, but the agile fighter moonwalks out of range. Refusing to let up, the old beast lunges forward again, fully locked on and determined to grab hold of this slippery punk. The prodigy, overflowing with ego, taunts him, asking if he seriously thinks he can match this footwork. Dragging that clunky, beefed-up physique around the ring is practically a death sentence. But right then, the mercenary drops his center of gravity into a low crouch and whispers a grim warning. He literally claws his thick fingers straight into the solid stone tiles, launching himself forward like a freight train off the rails. He bulldozes toward the kid, aiming to plaster him against the barricade. At the very last frame, Min-Soo twists out of the crash zone, walking away with just a superficial slash across his cheek. He weaves through the relentless barrage of blows, doubling down on his trash talk that the boomer is washed up. Panic flares in Insuk's eyes as he realizes the speed demon has already flanked his blind spot. Wham! 2 precise strikes fracture the veteran's ribcage, yet he still desperately swings back. Minsu chuckles, giving props to the big guy for barely shifting his bulky torso enough to protect his fatal organs, but challenges him to survive this next barrage. The prodigy unloads an avalanche of highly unorthodox phantom strikes, targeting vulnerable nerve clusters from every angle. Sweating bullets, the veteran mentally calculates the massive speed gap. If this momentum keeps snowballing, he is catching a one-way ticket to the grave. The human blur zips past him again, sinking in a devastating critical strike. The sickening crunch echoes up to the stands, leaving the elite trio absolutely paralyzed by the sheer violence. The blonde spectator is sweating profusely, questioning how a rank 9 fighter possesses this level of broken stats. Is this monster genuinely invincible? He watches in horror as Insuk stands drenched in his own blood. The veteran's tank is running on empty, his muscular frame shuddering uncontrollably. Minsu cracks a dark smile, noticing the battered warrior shift into a tight defensive stance. He mocks the old-timer, asking why he is suddenly clenching his fists, instead of relying on those hyped-up blade techniques. Recognizing his physical limits are pushed past the red line, the bleeding veteran surprisingly drops his tight guard completely, bracing himself as the boy lunges in like an absolute sleep paralysis demon. Minsu scoffs, totally convinced the old man dropping his guard means he's throwing in the towel, teasing him about trying to sneak in a grapple up close. "You seriously think that garbage will work on me?" he mocks, before sprinting straight at him with a death threat and burying a strike deep into his gut. The sheer impact radiates outward, hitting with the force of a freight train. But wait, massive plot twist. Minsu didn't actually land that blow. Insuk literally just bare-knuckle punched his own freaking stomach. Up in the stands, the blonde kid is absolutely clueless, completely baffled as to why anyone would just deck themselves mid-fight. Amanda quickly connects the dots, explaining that the geezer wasn't just self-harming, he perfectly timed that self-punch to crush his opponent's incoming fingers. And holy crap, it actually worked. A sick snap echoes as 2 of Minsu's fingers bend totally out of shape, leaving the psycho visibly rattled. This dude never saw such an unhinged counter coming. Cradling his busted hand, Minsu curses him out, calling him a completely psychotic boomer. But zero hesitation from Insuk, he's instantly closing the gap, fists cocked, while panic finally flashes through Minsu's mind. Crap, he's totally got me. The very next heartbeat, a brutal haymaker sinks into his abdomen, launching him through the air until he crashes violently into the arena wall. Spiderweb cracks explode across the concrete as Minsu shrieks in agony, hacking up mouthfuls of crimson. Meanwhile, Insuk knows this fight is far from over. He desperately needs to follow up with a lethal finisher, but his right arm is essentially dead weight from the heavy damage it absorbed. The odds are heavily stacked against him, making this his one and only window of opportunity. Gearing up for a final clash, he vows to end it right here. He channels every ounce of leftover adrenaline into his fist. Out of nowhere, though, a terrifying numbness starts creeping through his veins. His legs give out, and he begins crumbling right in the center of the ring. Watching from above, Seonho desperately screams at him to hold the line and stay on his feet. Insuk's vision blurs. Damn it, I'm bleeding out. My arms won't even budge. Drifting toward darkness, he mentally begs his kid for forgiveness. Then, his survival instincts kick back in. Why am I giving up? This isn't the end. Shaking off the fatigue, his eyes snap wide open, but the nightmare is already hovering over him. Minsu-han is literally right in his face, locked and loaded. Flashing that signature deranged grin, the psycho drops a bombshell. Turns out, he was right-handed this whole time. He flawlessly plunges a devastating strike directly into the old man's chest, forcing a massive fountain of blood from Insuk's lips. Seonho shreds his vocal cords screaming for the elder. But check out this insane reflex. Insuk actually managed to slide his palm over his heart at the last microsecond. Sadly, it wasn't enough. The attack pierces straight through the meat of his hand. Minsu sarcastically claps back, praising the old dude's pathetic final struggle. "Nice try, sacrificing the hand, Pops," he mocks. "Too bad my reach is just a bit longer." With zero mercy, he forces his bloodied fingers deeper into the flesh. The life drains from Insuk's completely widened eyes as reality sets in, and his lifeless body slowly slumps down onto the cold, hard arena floor. Pure panic sets in for Seonho. He's frantically shrieking the old man's name when the victorious psycho slowly pivots his gaze toward our main guy. He loudly calls out Seonho Kang for the whole stadium to hear, sending our boy's anxiety levels straight through the roof. Minsu viciously rubs salt in the wound, screaming, "Get a good look. This fossil is dead because of you," before nonchalantly ripping his hand free from the chest cavity. The trauma hits Seonho like a ton of bricks. He completely freezes up, his mind flashing back to those quiet moments when the old man took him under his wing. He remembers all the fighting tricks he learned, and that heartbreaking confession where In-suk admitted he wished he'd bonded with his actual son like this. Seonho silently reflects on that conversation, wondering if his own shattered life could have been salvaged if his real dad had actually stuck around. Back in that memory, the sweet old man had reassured him, promising that no real father would ever abandon his kid. He had sworn up and down that he'd survive this hellhole, absolutely refusing to die and leave his boy orphaned. Cut back to reality, and In-suk's thoroughly destroyed body just goes completely limp, while the psycho kid glares down at the corpse. The robotic drone instantly chimes in, officially declaring the bloodbath over and crowning Min-soo Han as the undeniable victor. Adding maximum disrespect, the blonde demon literally stomps on In-suk's lifeless head, bragging about how insanely fun this place is. That crosses the ultimate line for Seonho. Blinded by pure rage, he vaults straight off the spectator balcony toward the kill zone. Mer just watches from the sidelines, sighing that this reckless reaction was totally guaranteed. Security protocols activate immediately as twin drones pivot to lock onto our boy. Up above, the other spectator realizes the robotic guards haven't opened fire yet. It dawns on him. The bots are programmed to hold fire until an actual brawl breaks out. Meanwhile, Seonho locks a murderous glare on Min-soo, ordering him to step off the old man's head instantly. "Knock it off!" he roars, but Min-soo just sadistically grinds his heel deeper into the skull, daring our boy to come down and make him stop. Dropping into a combat stance, Seonho's anger practically boils over. Lasers from the drones immediately paint his chest, but he doesn't care, screaming, "I said get your freaking foot off him." Min-soo flashes that unhinged, psychopathic grin and lunges forward. Recognizing the massive danger, another guy from the stands quickly vaults down to intervene. He knows he has to defuse this powder keg before someone gets vaped, but someone else is way quicker, snatching Seonho from behind and ordering him to stand down. The smiling ally, wrapping him up, whispers that he needs to stay alive long enough to actually use the combat tricks the old man passed down. Seonho wildly thrashes, demanding to be released. Right on cue, the second guy slides in from out of nowhere and perfectly sweeps Seonho's legs out from under him. He slams hard onto the floor, his ankles completely trapped, with both dudes totally pinning him to the concrete. The deranged, smiling ally tells him it's time for a little forced nap. Our boy's vision starts going black. Damn it all, he curses internally, as those final, haunting words from In-suk echo through his fading mind. He laid it out plain and simple if he ended up biting the dust. He begged him to watch over his kid. He practically pleaded, hoping his son would find a true friend to keep him from totally derailing his life. And our boy? He just fired back, making it crystal clear that was a no-brainer. In-suk looked confused, asking what the hell he meant. Seonho just hit him with the facts he still had way too much to learn from the old man. Stepping up as the kid's best friend made total sense, but he needed to absorb more knowledge from In-suk first. That completely caught In-suk off guard. He actually started roasting him, chuckling about his sheer audacity. Then, his eyes rolled back as he finally blacked out. The crew immediately dropped him the second he went limp. Meanwhile, Min-soo Han locked his dead eyes onto our MC and smirked. "Now that is a killer view," he mocked. But Amanda instantly stepped up, completely blocking his line of sight, and barked that he already snatched enough clout for one day. Time to bounce. The psycho tilted his head. What's that supposed to mean? Amanda shot daggers right through his skull, challenging him on whether he really wanted to push his luck and farm even more spotlight. Min-soo just laughed, asking if she was practically begging for a death wish too. Amanda didn't even flinch, totally daring him to throw hands. She straight up told him that if he threw a punch, the security drone would blast him to pieces. Honestly, that sounded like an absolute win to her. Her eyes burned with pure rage. She even taunted him, wondering out loud if she should just beat the living daylights out of him herself. He merely flashed a wicked grin, promising her expiration date was fast approaching. He swore he would be the one to put her in the dirt eventually. Then, he simply pivoted on his heel and strolled right off the main stage. The second he dipped, Amanda rushed straight to In-suk. She pressed 2 fingers to his throat, a pulse. He was still clinging to life. She instantly screamed for the medics to hurry up. Looking down at the damage, he realized his right hand literally acted as a shield, deflecting that fatal strike just a fraction of an inch away from his heart. That split-second reflex kept him breathing. High up in the VIP lounge, the director watched the whole bloodbath unfold, calling Min-soo an absolute monster. He was totally mind-blown, questioning how a human could weaponize their bare fingers like literal daggers. His assistant quickly chimed in. It was all thanks to a highly exclusive experimental juice. While your average steroid just pumped up raw muscle mass, Min-soo's formula was built different. It completely mutated his tendons, ligaments, and every single tissue wrapping around his skeleton. On the battlefield, having whip-like, indestructible tendons was honestly way more lethal than Seonho's reinforced bone structure. The director immediately wanted to scout him, but the assistant shut that down fast. Minsu was an elite hound kept on a tight leash by the chairman himself. Getting a private meeting with him was basically impossible. Damn it. The director cursed under his breath, but his right-hand man told him to chill out. They still had a massive roster of top-tier savages to draft from, especially the ones stepping up for the next brawl. The director raised an eyebrow. What next brawl? You mean that capoeira chick? The assistant nodded, confirming she was totally on his radar. But the boss just scoffed. Capoeira? Seriously? That's not even real combat. It's literally just a dance routine. But the assistant firmly pushed back. Sure, it looked like a flashy dance on the surface, but it absolutely wasn't invented for show business. Back when Portugal took over Brazil, they dragged countless enslaved Africans across the ocean for brutal labor. Desperate to shatter their chains and survive the absolute hell they lived in, they forged a lethal combat system. They camouflaged the strikes as rhythmic dancing to completely fool the armed guards. Or at least, that was the legend passed down. The assistant dropped the lore, explaining that every single kick was fueled by pure agony and survival, not some party vibe. Honestly, right after Brazil snatched its freedom, capoeira became the go-to weapon for hardcore street gangs and underground crime rings. It got so wildly out of hand that the government literally outlawed the entire martial art back in 1937. So yeah, it wasn't just practical, it was a straight-up killing art if used right. Down in the blood-stained octagon, Amanda Crouch was already locked in. The floating AI drone hovered right next to her, announcing that the fresh meat for the next massacre had touched down. Amanda threw a glance over her shoulder, locking eyes with another absolute beast in the MMA game. The robotic voice echoed through the arena, officially kicking off the deathmatch between Amanda Crouch and Wilksug. She dropped low into her fighting stance, violently scanning her target. She couldn't help but wonder if this dude was seriously sleeping on her skills. He looked completely unbothered, zero stress in his posture. Deciding not to wait, she exploded forward, launching a vicious high kick straight for his dome. But catching a glimpse of his expression, it became terrifyingly obvious that another absolute lunatic had just stepped into the cage. Cutting back to the VIP room, the director waved his hand. Okay, skip the capoeira history lesson. Give me the stats on this Wilksug guy. He's sitting pretty at number 10 on the betting charts, so he's gotta be an absolute unit. The assistant broke it down. Wilksug used to be a total flop in the pro MMA circuit, but the second he started juicing with that experimental drug, he unlocked god-tier dynamic vision. The high rollers immediately crowned him the 10-second executioner. Ever since he earned that title, the cash flowing into his betting pool has been skyrocketing. The director looked totally confused. The 10-second executioner? What kind of cringy anime title is that? His right-hand man laid out the brutal truth. Every single match he fought ended with a one-hit sleep button. Nobody had ever survived past the 10-second mark. Holy crap, that's insane, the boss gasped. The assistant nodded, adding that Wilksug hyped up the gamblers by completely obliterating his targets without taking a single speck of damage. Maintaining that flawless speedrun streak practically turned him into an overnight superstar in the underground. Leaning forward, the director smirked. So, if he actually manages to defend that crazy record today, he'll pull in a tsunami of cash and skyrocket straight into the S-class rankings, the assistant concluded. The bell rang. The bloodshed was officially on. 7 seconds in, Amanda launches a brutal high kick. Hitting that exact 7-second mark, this absolute psycho flashes an arrogant smirk, convinced he just baited a top-tier striker with his sloppy stance. She commits entirely to the blitz, but his dynamic kinetic vision tracks every frame. Tick to 8 seconds, he's cocky, assuming a block is guaranteed despite being wide open, setting up a massive counter at second 9. But suddenly, his brain completely short-circuits. He has zero clue what just went wrong, or why his field of vision is suddenly filled with concrete. Hitting the flat 10-second mark, his face brutally craters into the arena floor. Amanda completely dominates him from above, grinding his skull into the dirt. Just as the terrifying realization hits him that he got totally wrecked, right at 10 seconds, she casually lifts her boot off his spine, cementing his flawless defeat. The hovering referee drone immediately broadcasts the winner, Amanda Grosh. Shooting him an icy glare, she drops a heavy truth. Some combat techniques are so insanely broken that no matter your reaction time, your basic human senses will physically never catch up. Up in the viewing box, the director is losing his absolute mind, trying to process the glitch in reality he just witnessed. Maluk breaks down the fatal error. The guy got greedy, thinking he could absorb the kick and snap straight into a punishing strike. The director looks confused. Wait, isn't that fighting 101, parry, then punish? The assistant chimes in, confirming that's exactly the trap Rikusu fell into. He explains the physics. To deliver a knockout kick of that magnitude, a fighter has to coil every ounce of their body's kinetic energy into one side, letting it detonate violently the millisecond it meets bone. Whiff that initial nuke, and your gas tank is totally empty. There's literally no window to reload that kind of power. Basically, a follow-up strike would be embarrassingly weak compared to the enemy's incoming counter, especially when you're completely airborne, lacking any solid leverage to compress and snap that kinetic tension. The director starts connecting the dots. Hold up. Wasn't Amanda Groach completely airborne? Both feet off the mat, and she totally whiffed her opener. Maluk nods. Bingo. That's exactly why Riku pushed for the immediate punish. But he triggered his own doom. He completely slept on Amanda's wild card. Leaning in, the director practically begs for the secret sauce. Maluk reveals the capoeira trick. Fighters weaponize their arms and hands as solid leverage points. Plus, Amanda was pumped full of an experimental combat serum, engineered to hyper-condense her muscle density rather than inflating her mass. The result? Her strikes are violently fast and carry devastating blunt force trauma, completely stripping away the sluggishness of a bulky build and unlocking terrifying mobility. Now, she can unleash maximum kinetic damage from literally any impossible angle, making her true power ceiling a complete mystery. A greedy smirk spreads across the director's face. Looks like this roster isn't totally cooked after all. But Maluk instantly dumps cold water on that hype, warning him that securing a contract with her is basically a pipe dream now. Confused, the executive asks why. Bro, she just dusted the Knockout King in exactly 10 seconds. She's taking his crown and his throne right now. Every single dollar those VIP whales dumped on that guy, it's aggressively funneling straight into her offshore accounts. The director scoffs, asking if Maluk is seriously scared of a little bidding war. Maluk tells him to chill out. The underground circuit still has plenty of absolute demons waiting in the wings. The exec perks up, asking if the next gladiator is also stepping out of Block 10. Maluk confirms the lineup, hyping up the incoming bloodbath because this specific combatant is backed into a corner and forced to go scorched earth. The camera hard cuts to cell 10, where the blonde kid notices our guy finally snapping back to reality. Our boy jolts violently awake in a cold sweat, wildly scanning the room. The traumatic memories crash into his brain, and he instantly panics, demanding to know where Yosuke is. Plot twist. Amanda swaggers into the cell, dropping the news that the guy is actually breathing, wild as it sounds. She checked his vitals over by the body pile, and he's stubbornly clinging to life. A massive wave of relief visibly washes over Minho, knowing his friend dodged the Grim Reaper for now. Amanda casually steps up to Minho, delivering the wake-up call. He's up next in the meat grinder. Might want to start stretching. Hotshot. She pushes. Minho's gaze turns ice cold. I know. His whole aura shifts, realizing the guy stepping into that cage might be his ultimate target. He flashes back to the shady suit, handing him a black market business card, promising a face-to-face with the monster, who slaughtered his brother. Minho had challenged him. How could he possibly track down a nameless phantom? The informant dropped a massive breadcrumb. The killer plunged into the combat wing and throws hands like a washed-up pro boxer. This revelation hit Minho like a freight train, right before the guy vanished, promising the rest of the file later. The math is simple. Old-school boxers are a rare breed in these death matches, and your next dance partner is Eunho Choi, sitting pretty at rank 16. We cut back to the penthouse skybox, where the director is practically sweating, terrified of what the top 5 apex predators look like if the low-tier scrubs are already throwing hands like literal demons. Maluk drops the heavy lore. Rank 5 belongs to Lev, an ex-KGB ghost who transitioned into black market bodyguarding. The guy had one rule: instantly execute any living, breathing threat that drifted too close to his VIP. During his private security days, he triggered a massive internal affairs investigation for psychotic overkill after he solo-wiped an entire 8-man hit squad trying to drop his client. His agency boss was so utterly disturbed by the absolute bloodbath that he burned Lev's contract on the spot. But a shadow broker immediately stepped out of the woodwork, buying the psycho's loyalty outright. He even hooked him up with a totally new identity. This was the guy who flipped his whole world upside down and dragged him into this mess. That guy? None other than Michael Lee, the absolute top dog running the private military contractor, Pawn. Rolling his eyes, the director scoffs that, without elite hookups like that, you are basically walking garbage. But Masuk claps back, pointing out that the stamina serum he took literally unlocked infinite endurance, making his top 5 ranking an absolute no-brainer. Sliding into the number 4 spot is a beast backed by Chairman Sangsuran, the absolute boss of the nation's biggest building empire, Aaron Construction. Meet Gingo, an absolute menace in combat taekwondo. Growing up, he worshipped his pops, a hardcore traditional master, but somewhere down the line, he went rogue and pivoted to pure street combat. The director completely pauses. Wait, taekwondo? Isn't that just some flashy Olympic sport? Misuk shakes his head, dropping the lore about an old documentary testing capoeira. They gathered top-tier martial artists and rigorously tracked the raw kinetic energy and velocity of every single strike. Most styles clocked in somewhere between 408 and 680 kilograms of pure blunt force. But the capoeira kick? It smashed the scales at 862 kilos, leaving the entire crew literally jaw-dropped. The crazy part? The absolute final style they tested was taekwondo. And word on the street is that strike delivered a mind-numbing 1,043 kilograms of force. The director looks like he just saw a ghost, asking if he is totally for real. Misuke nods, hyping Gingo as a totally different breed. Thanks to his elasticity buff, his combat taekwondo generates a destructive output literally nobody else on Earth can survive. Flexing at number 3 is a unit drafted by Chairman Isugo, the mastermind behind the big pharma giant CT Bio. They call him Ryan. This dude is the definition of roided out. He willingly treated his own body like a lab rat, tanking every shady experiment and chemical cocktail just to level up. He went completely psychotic, literally grafting steel plates onto his own skeleton. Now, with all those chemicals deep frying his brain, he fights like an absolute lunatic. Claiming the runner-up spot is Taran M., a globally wanted fugitive and a cold-blooded hitman. His sponsor? Donggu Park, the insanely rich chairman of the massive shadow banking empire, Fine Life. The director completely loses his mind, stunned that a total clown like Donggu managed to bag the second-best fighter. Misuke chimes in, admitting he already has a massive file on this assassin. The bottom line? He is an unhinged psycho who only joined this bloodbath to legally catch bodies and satisfy his sick urges. His technique is practically alien, completely suffocating his targets. Most of his victims caught a one-way ticket to the grave before they even processed the attack. Starting to visibly panic, the director curses, whining that this roster is totally rigged with absolute freaks of nature. But Misuke keeps it real, stating the true nightmare is the reigning champ sitting comfortably at number 1. The director stammers, "Wait, the actual top dog?" Mid-sentence, a deafening crash echoes as the thick oak door explodes inward into splinters. Paralyzed with fear, the director stutters out a demand for his identity. A grinning giant casually shrugs, "Oops, guess I do not know my own strength." Enter the undisputed rank 1. He goes by C, a legendary Gurkha mercenary. The director practically soils himself, collapsing to the floor and shrieking for his security detail. Twin combat drones instantly lock onto C, right as a sharply dressed figure steps through the ruined doorway, immediately flaming the director for being utterly pathetic. The director freezes, instantly recognizing the interloper. It is his big brother, Rosen, the golden child of the syndicate, the top executive himself. He glares down at his shivering younger sibling, asking if he deadass thought he could sweep this tournament just by showing his face. He viciously tells him to pack his trash and bounce. You actually gambled your executive chair by bringing a literal college kid to a death match? You are beyond saving, you absolute clown. The director trembles in silent rage, his throat totally tight from the savage humiliation. Adding insult to injury, the older brother smirks, noting the harsh financial penalty for shattering a combat tier security door. He promises zero bailouts when the board officially axes him from the corporation. Have a blast playing house with your little student pet. The second they vanish, the director totally loses it. Spitting curses, he shrieks at Misuke. Why are you staring at the wall? Find me a weapon that can erase that smug bastard immediately. Misuke calmly replies that the probabilities are decent, but definitely not guaranteed. The director snaps back. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Misuke breaks down the chaotic nature of the combat serums. Once the Sweet 16 hits their second phase of doping, a handful of underdogs could easily mutate into top-tier threats. We just have to bide our time, because I am specifically scouting for those dark horses. Agitated, the director growls. Spit it out. Who is on your radar? Misuke reveals a tight list of 5 potential heavy hitters. Leading the pack is Ryu Hisuka, gearing up to demolish Hisno. Right behind him are the lethal Amanda Crouch and the absolute grappling god, Gang Jun. Rounding out the wildcards are 2 fighters locked in the upcoming bracket, the boxing underdogs, Minyoung Kang and Yoonwoo Choi. Cutting to the locker rooms, Minho finally corners the boxer, his voice deadly quiet. You would not happen to know a guy going by Minyoung Kang, would you? Yoonwoo Choi scoffs. Why wouldn't I? That casual admission sends a literal shockwave through Minho, his blood absolutely boiling. He just locked eyes with his brother's murderer. Seething with raw hatred, he snarls. So you do know my brother. Inside, his mind is screaming. I torched my entire life just to hunt you down. Suddenly, an eerie glow pulses from the kid's chest. Riding a massive adrenaline spike, he completely blurs out of existence, instantly manifesting an inch from the boxer's face. Minho blitzes forward, his fists a glitching blur as he completely pieces the guy up. Cursing him out, he rains down blows until crimson splatters the floor. With zero warning, a devastating right hook connects directly with the villain's jaw. The sheer kinetic force launches him flying across the entire arena. His spine craters into the concrete wall. Stalking toward the wreckage, Minho demands his motive, but the battered fighter just waves him off. Utterly confused, Minho pushes for answers until a blinding, neon light abruptly ignites beneath his opponent's ribcage. Smirking, the guy admits he purposely tanked that combo just to jumpstart his system. He snaps back to his feet like he hasn't even taken a scratch. Flexing this newfound energy, he mocks the whole speed tier system before teleporting dead in front of our main guy. Minho throws a desperate counter, but hits nothing but air. The enemy straight up phases out of reality, materializing right at his flank. A brutal fist connects with Minho's jaw, yet the kid mirrors the trick, fading into a blur and flanking his attacker right back. However, this pro fighter's agility is on another tier entirely. Real panic finally starts creeping into Minho's eyes. Pushing his limits, the kid desperately searches for an opening, finding absolutely zero. Onu chuckles at his own hypothesis being proven right, popping up inside Minho's blind spot. Tapping his own cheek mockingly, he ridicules the kid's max velocity. Calling him absolute trash, Onu delivers another humiliating backhand. Vision blurring from the massive trauma, our protagonist refuses to accept this game over screen. The monstrous impact catapults him straight across the fighting ring, leaving his crumpled body motionless on the cold floor. Slowly closing the distance, the victor gloats about his enhancement formula. Sure, being a punching bag sucked, but this godlike buff was totally worth it. Shockingly, a twitch from the wreckage catches his eye. Annoyed, the veteran orders him to stay completely dead, so the official can finally end this broadcast. Warning that any further resistance means an absolute death sentence, he readies a lethal strike. Right then, a core memory of Minho's older sibling flashes through his fading consciousness. That familiar voice echoes, preaching about inhaling one final lungful of air when hope hits absolute zero. Clinging to those words, he takes that exact breath. A dormant catalyst explodes within his cardiovascular system. Milliseconds before a lethal boot crushes his skull, an insane mutation triggers. He glitches out of existence entirely. Using raw kinetic energy, he loops around the arena to stack ungodly levels of momentum. Sweating bullets, the veteran realizes the kid is breaking the speed barrier. Despite sustaining critical damage, Minho practically teleports into his opponent's personal space. Panicking, the pro fighter attempts an emergency evasion maneuver. He revs to his absolute limit, but the kid pulls a flawless fake-out, intercepting his exact path. Caught totally off guard, the older man desperately contorts his body. Gravity takes over, and pure, unfiltered dread washes over him as he realizes he's trapped. Accepting his imminent destruction, he freezes. Right before impact, Minho screams out his brother's name, demanding answers from the supposed murderer, leaving his target genuinely bewildered. With zero clue what the kid means, his thoughts are violently interrupted. A devastating haymaker caves in his facial features, ragdolling him into the barricades. The entire stadium falls dead silent. Up in the VIP boxes, the facility administrators are losing their minds, instantly recognizing this as the legendary Phase 2 evolution. Coughing up chunks of crimson, the defeated fighter lies helpless while our protagonist shadows over him, locked and loaded for an execution. Offering one final ultimatum, Minho demands the truth behind his family's slaughter. Gasping for air, the broken man confirms the grim reality. Acknowledging Mong's assassination, he throws a massive curveball. Extremely confused, the kid pauses, frantically questioning if he's been hunting the wrong suspect this entire time. Pausing his onslaught, Minho demands clarity on his sibling's legacy. Scoffing through the pain, the veteran claims every single fighter in the underground revered him. Calling him the undisputed greatest of all time for title defenses, he shifts the blame. When pressed for a name, he drops a bombshell about a specific syndicate of junkies. These fiends exclusively hunt down top-tier title holders. Processing this insane plot twist, our hero violently grabs him, screaming for a specific name. Threatening to beat it out of him before consciousness fades, he's abruptly interrupted. A floating camera zooms in, officially declaring a knockout. Minho secures the undisputed win, sending the underground betting pools into absolute chaos. Watching the streams, the head scientist practically drools over the footage. His superior chimes in, completely mind-blown that a host survived the Phase 2 awakening without slamming extra vials of the serum. Smirking at his tablet, the medic brags that their dark, twisted research is finally yielding god-tier data. Sure, the kid isn't quite touching the stats of that original anomaly who broke the universe 2 decades prior. Still, pushing an 80% compatibility rate is borderline legendary. The executive nods, adding vital context to their shady operation. Ever since that primal powerhouse vanished off the grid, they've been aggressively cloning his genetic code for these underground death matches. Beating the original blueprint was practically impossible from the start. Honestly, if the guy had stuck around, his power scaling would be utterly terrifying by now. Muttering about the ghost's whereabouts, the frame violently shifts. We cut straight into the containment cells, where our secondary protagonist is spamming brutal low sweeps. Obsessing over his own weakness, he grinds endlessly. His super chill, constantly grinning, cellmate finally interrupts, suggesting he relax before he snaps a tendon. Pointing out the massive fissures fracturing the concrete floor and literally splintering the sleeping chambers, he jokes about an imminent cave-in. Chuckling, his roommate warns that burning out this hard guarantees a blackout before stepping foot in the octagon. But our guy stays fully locked in. Knowing he's vastly underleveled compared to the freaks in this tournament, he refuses to quit. An old piece of wisdom from his mentor suddenly anchors his mind. Total muscular failure isn't a setback, it's the cheat code to rebuilding fibers exponentially denser. But the ultimate hack to unlocking that god-tier physique? Getting proper hours of deep, uninterrupted rest. Imagine dividing a 24-hour cycle into brutal extremes. Pushing your muscles past the breaking point, crashing into a deep coma-like rest, and repeating that twice daily. You would mathematically lap everyone else's progress twofold. The only catch? Your body would need mutant-level regeneration to handle the trauma, which our guy totally possesses. But settling for double the gains? Nah, that is amateur hour. He is craving absolute, unquestionable dominance over the entire roster. Sliding into his recovery pod, the dude across the room questions his insanely early bedtime. Our protagonist just smirks, unbuckling his heavy ankle constraints. The metal weights slam down, literally shattering the concrete tiles beneath them. Seeing this flex, the grinning psycho across the room chuckles, reminding him that the goal was preparing for a death match, not straight up unaliving himself. Ignoring the jab, our boy leans back, shutting his eyes. Cycle number 3 is officially a go. He is betting everything on his overpowered healing factor to carry him through. As the airtight seal hisses shut, his neighbor watches in sheer disbelief. Homeboy is really pushing a 3-a-day grind regimen. Banking on micronaps for full muscle repair sounds completely delusional. But if this crazy strat actually pays off, the power scaling in this place is about to go completely off the charts. Right then, a mechanical drone buzzes over, summoning Manon to the main stage for his bout. About time, Manon mutters, praying his next victim actually brings the heat for once. He struts through the metallic gate. Cut to a different cell. Gangjo, the 15th ranked powerhouse, is in the middle of a brutal workout, literally defying gravity by doing wall cling pull-ups with pure finger strength. Up in the luxury box, the director squints, questioning if this dude belongs in their elite top 5 roster. Muck nods confidently, hyping up the guy's chemically enhanced grip. We are talking bone-snapping, flesh-tearing pressure. One solid grab, and it is instantly game over for anyone. Add a lethal judo foundation to those vice grip hands, pure nightmare fuel. He has been treating juicehead brawlers like ragdolls, completely pulverizing their skeletons the second they hit the mat. The guy is an absolute menace. The director raises an eyebrow, noting that the upcoming opponent is Minho, sitting pretty low at rank 45. Seems like a massive mismatch, but the boss is down to watch the bloodshed anyway. However, Muck drops a bombshell. Their intel on the underdog is completely blank. The director freezes, demanding answers. His assistant nervously chimes in, revealing this wildcard was handpicked by the elite combat division themselves. No background checks, zero combat footage. Nobody even knows his fighting style. He is a total ghost in their system. But the wildest red flag? Nobody has even figured out what his specific enhancement perk actually does yet. Back on the bloodstained dirt, our smiling psycho steps into the glaring stadium lights. Waiting across the pit stands the juggernaut, Gang. The floating referee locks into position, broadcasting the official match start between Gangjo and Manon. The big guy cracks his knuckles, arrogantly promising to wrap this entire fight up in one punch. But before he can even blink, Manon materializes inches from his nose with a casual bet. A microsecond later, the psycho vanishes, whispering from behind, too slow. Plot twist. Gang actually parries the sneak attack. Snatching Manon's wrist, the grappler smirks, calling a clean knockout throw. Launching into the violent takedown, Manon just flashes a wicked grin, genuinely impressed by the big guy's reflex speed. Wham! Gang craters Manon into the floorboards. An agonizing scream echoes through the stadium as the victim questions reality. Up in the VIP lounge, the director leans over the glass, hyping up the absolute devastation of that flawless slam. Mook is totally shook, admitting he underestimated the raw velocity of that counter. But suddenly, the referee drone hovers down, officially declaring the match over. Because Gangjo is entirely incapacitated, the camera pans to the giant, knocked out cold and foaming at the mouth. Winner, Manon. The robotic voice echoes while the director wipes nervous sweat from his forehead, his brain completely error-coding over how the massive grappler just took the L. Muck is just as paralyzed. An upset like this? Completely unheard of. Nobody even caught the actual finishing blow. Still pinned beneath the unconscious heavyweight, the psycho lazily sticks his tongue out. His mind drifts back to Sunwoo, wondering if his little psychological test cooked the kid perfectly or completely burnt out his sanity. Meanwhile, cutting back to Sector 10, the depressurization hiss fills the air. Our boy finally pushes the pod lid open, groggy but alive, clenching his fists. A rush of unfamiliar power courses through his veins. The crazy sleep hack actually did something. But buffed stats or not, the grind does not stop. His mind immediately races to his mother's safety. Can he actually rely on that sketchy woman? All he knows is he needs to corner that slimy talent scout and demand answers right now. As if on cue, a drone hovers into his personal space, flashing a mandatory summons. The sender? The exact dirtbag he was looking for. Sunwoo freezes, mind racing at the crazy timing. Arriving at the designated office, Misuk tells him the blindfold can come off. The scout puts on a fake friendly smile, acting like old pals. Before the guy can even finish his greeting, Sunwoo lunges, grabbing him by the collar with pure, unfiltered rage. Misuk violently waves his hands, warning the kid to chill before security turns him into Swiss cheese. But Sunwoo's eyes are completely hollow. He is at rock bottom. Spitting venom, he demands his parents' exact coordinates right this second. Misuk just smirks, claiming he has them on lock. Sunwoo tightens his grip, demanding the absolute truth. The scout smoothly lies, claiming they are in safe hands, but our boy shuts that garbage down instantly. He overheard the control room chatter. He knows there is an active hit out on them. Cornered, Misuk drops the act, admitting the top-tier VIP absolutely ordered the execution. Misuk drops a bomb. If Sunwoo's parents suddenly vanish, he's got them covered. Our guy is totally thrown off. The hell is that supposed to mean? Misuk doesn't sugarcoat it. With or without those performance enhancers, he's already pushed all his chips to the center of the table for Sunwoo. This forces the VIPs into a corner. They have to back him. But Sunwoo pushes back, arguing that the whole vibe with that mysterious woman felt completely different. Misuk cuts him off cold. Does he seriously believe that little speech in the recovery ward came from a random staff member? That hits Sunwoo like a truck. His brain is scrambling. He argues back, saying the absolute first thing he heard upon waking up was that his folks were dead. Right on cue, this woman named Seong Gi-hun magically shows up. Misuk scoffs. Does he honestly think the universe just lined that up by accident? So, what if she promised to protect his family? Misuk lays it out straight. She was playing him, and he should have seen right through the cap. Hell, the guy's own father literally booted him from the mega corporation just to keep his two kids breathing. Sunwoo isn't buying it. He asks if Misuk thinks he's straight up brain dead. How could that woman fake knowing every single detail about his parents? Misuk fires back, demanding to know if she dropped any actual receipts right there. Sunwoo admits she didn't, pointing out the strict zero contraband rule in the ward. Oh yeah? Then explain this. Misuk challenges, suddenly shoving his wrist right in our boy's face. Sunwoo flinches, totally confused. Then his eyes lock onto it. Ink. Not just any ink, it's his mom's exact handwriting. Misuk smirks, pointing out the freshly written date. Boom. Proof of exactly who holds his parents' leashes. Sunwoo freezes. Nobody could replicate those strokes perfectly. Misuk just shrugs, believe the hard evidence, or stay blind. It's his call. But before all that drama, Misuk lays out the master plan to make the big boss obsess over Sunwoo all over again. He hyped up the next opponent's stats to insane levels on his official report. If Sunwoo absolutely crushes this guy, Director Cha won't even look at another gladiator. Lock down that spot, secure the bag for them in the ring, and every single nightmare in Sunwoo's life practically vanishes overnight. Our boy's eyes narrow. Who am I fighting next? Cut to the underground pit, where a total beast named Rio steps through the shadows. Misuk's final warning echoes in Sunwoo's head. Do not forget the real game. Sion couldn't care less about the golden belt. Her entire motivation is just watching her brother's empire burn to the ground. Meaning, she has zero actual incentive to keep Sunwoo's family safe. If he sides with her entering the round of 16, she'll toss his parents straight to the wolves without blinking. Sunwoo grits his teeth. Absolute snakes, every single one of them. His radar is spinning, he has no clue who's actually playing straight. But truth or lies, that mental chess match has to wait. Because right now, nothing matters if he ends up as a chalk outline against this new challenger. Especially against a dude looking like a final boss ripped straight from a retro fighting game. Up in the luxury box, Director Cha smirks, betting that if Sunwoo bites the dust tonight, the absolute despair on Sion's face will be pure cinema. Across the VIP suite, Sion glares daggers at her sibling. She whispers that they'll soon find out who gets the last laugh. Down below, Rio shifts into a rock-solid combat stance. Sunwoo mirrors him, scanning the posture. Heavy on the front foot, definitely an aggressive striker. A brutal calf kick might just chop him down. Plus, Sunwoo's adrenaline is peaking today. He fires off a lightning-fast low kick, but Rio casually checks it. Sunwoo anticipates the standard flow. Dodge, then trade strikes. But what happens next absolutely shatters his expectations. Ryo lunges, locking his hand around Sunwoo's throat like a vice, and slams him into the concrete. The impact is so brutal, our boy immediately coughs up crimson. The giant instantly drops for a savage ground and pound, but Sunwoo rolls for his life, narrowly escaping, having his skull caved in. Up top, Director Cha raises an eyebrow. He pegged Ryo as a pure brawler, completely oblivious to his top-tier grappling game. Misuk leans in, declaring that Master Ryo's arsenal is basically limitless. The director looks confused, asking for the breakdown. Mizuk drops the lore. Ryo is a master of Kudo. It's a terrifying hybrid art mixing judo throws, bone-snapping submissions, and relentless Muay Thai striking. Not to mention, they practically encourage vicious headbutts and low blows. Their entire training philosophy, if it causes massive trauma, use it. Stepping inside Ryo's reach is basically a one-way ticket to the meat grinder. Back in the cage, Ryo stares down our hero, genuinely puzzled. Who exactly is this kid? And why isn't his aura reeking of fear? Suddenly, Sunwoo explodes forward, closing the distance instantly. He unloads a wild haymaker aimed straight at the dome, but Ryo slips past it like a ghost. Without missing a beat, Ryo digs a sledgehammer of a fist right into Sunwoo's gut. The sheer kinetic force makes our protagonist violently spit blood again, his knees giving out instantly. Smirking in the stands, the director gloats. He boldly claims the underdog's run is officially over. But down on the canvas, Ryo's eyes widen in absolute disbelief. The crazy bastard is actually grinning. Annoyed but intrigued, Ryo stomps forward. Time to see if that cocky smile holds up under absolute agony.